Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C, Certified Brewhead.
And I am Nathan from Nathan Does Beer.
Welcome to episode 2 of Beer and Others, the podcast, the business of beer season. Man, the first one went really well. So if you haven't checked that out, episode 1, Can I Get a Flight with Caitlin and Jamie from Town and Fine Balance. Phenomenal way to kick this off. And we're keeping it rolling with the gentleman behind those two breweries, who, if you have been listening to the Adjunct series, you would have heard similar conversations with both these guys, Nate.
Indeed.
And
we're continuing on with like for a different perspective from the same two breweries, and it's stuff that and it was these two breweries in particular that the kind of the idea for this for these kinds of conversations came about, and thinking about specifically having these two on. So I'm excited for this one to finally be coming together.
Absolutely. So we're going to be touching on different things that we haven't gone into, in their respective pods or anything yet. So we're excited. We've got some great beers, some great convo. So folks, please welcome, let's get this right, Jeffrey and Andrew from Town and Fine Balance respectively. Let me press this button and then we press the applause. There we go. Welcome, boys. Thank you so much for hanging out, taking the time to do this.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Always
good
a
to be here.
Mate. Oh, damn right it is. So
wonderful intro, by the way. Wonderful intro.
Yeah.
You think we did okay? It wasn't too bad.
Okay. I loved it.
We bigged you up enough. Good. That's what I want. That's one to hear. So, fellas, what the fuck?
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
It's the dude who did this, the sign's great, but he did a fucking shit job of the plug. And I am not an electrician, and I've had to fix it with rusted wire cutters 3 times, and I don't know what I'm doing. So I guess the wires aren't touching right. So if there's any electricians in Hamilton who knows this stuff, please help me. I don't know what to do. But the only thing I can do is crack a beer. Fucking boom. Like that. The good segue? Was that segue okay?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Okay, good. Because I do some pretty shit segues sometimes. So we're starting off. We got a couple crispies to let this bad boy roll. So we'll start off with a quick one from Town with the glorious new branding. Jeffrey, tell us about this one, big fella.
Yeah, so this is our flagship lager. We've been brewing this beer for a while now, probably, I don't even know, man, probably 3 or 4 years. Nice, easy drinking, German style lager. Yeah, I mean, it's a straightforward, nice, crispy, super refreshing, 4.2%. And yeah, this one slays in the summer.
Mate, I bet it does. Yeah, I remember when this one came out a while ago. You guys have definitely been brewing this for a minute.
Yeah, it did. We it was kind of one of the lagers that we were just tossing around for a little while, making a bunch of different lagers, and releasing them kind of as one-offs. And this one quickly gained steam. And yeah, we just decided to stick with it and kind of push it as a beer that we always want to have around. So.
It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It's a wicked summer crusher. I imagine it is going wild at the pump house.
It is. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. The pump house is a bit of a different crowd from what we generally get in the brewery. So it's a nice crowd pleaser for sure. I mean, I was there on the weekend and a guy walked up to the bar and ordered a Canadian. I mean, it's not all that that's showing up, but we get non-beer drinkers, beer drinkers, whatever. So
this is a to see patio by the lake, and they're like,
yeah, exactly. So no, it's nice. It's a good, easy drink of beer, pretty straightforward, but we're always trying to refine it and make it better. So we had a discussion about it today, how we're going to or what we're going to change, but we won't tell anybody.
We'll keep that on the low. Either way, gentlemen, once again, great to see your faces. Thank you for hanging out.
Cheers,
that in
guys.
Cheers. Nose is beautiful.
Oh yeah.
So smooth. Only 4.2, but there's so much flavor. 4.2, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
much
we
flavor.
It's actually, I mean, it's a German style beer. We actually use mostly American hops, German style American hops, I guess you could call them. Bravo, and then one that we've been digging for a little while, Crystal, which apparently like no one wanted for the first 3 years that we were brewing the beer, and then this year it all of a sudden just vanished off the face of the planet. So luckily we're contracted, but we'll see how it goes for next year.
Okay, love to see that. Yeah, I haven't heard of Bravo, but or maybe I have. But Crystal definitely is like a
Bravo's just a high alpha, pretty much just a high alpha
bittering.
Gotcha. So we get our bitters from then, and then a couple of later editions of Crystal for like that noble-esque kind of hop vibe. But yeah.
Love it, dude. Yeah, man, this is a crusher. Every time I have it, it slaps. The other one that I really loved, I don't know if you ever bring back, Big Money.
Big Money. Big Money, yeah.
Big Money was a beer. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. We have this conversation all the goddamn time. We're like, we got to bring back this beer. We got to bring back that beer. But we've kind of like halfway, anyways, committed to having like 3 beers around all the time. And 2 years ago that was really easy, and now it's really difficult. It really just like kind of handcuffs our ability to like do as many one-offs and stuff. Like for a while we were doing at least one-off for at least a week, and sometimes two, like for a full year and a half. And now we're like lucky to get one out every 2 weeks kind of thing. But yeah, it's like it's a double-edged sword, because it's like, oh, it's nice to have, and there's a lot of people who show up and they're like, oh, let me grab a quick one or whatever, and you want to have that for them. But at the same time, it's like, you want to put out new shit all the time. That's like what makes it fun. So you can refine a lager recipe forever, but like coming up with new ones is really what we got into the business to begin with, right? So
yeah.
Totally. Do you say you have 3 available all the time?
Yeah, we got 3 flagships. We have Quick One, which is our lager, Outside Joe, OJ, which is our pale ale, and then Square Ale.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's an interesting convo with that, which we'll probably actually touch on in a little bit. So let's kick this off with, I'd like to hear from both of you. Just how's everything going, man? I mean, look, we had these convos, all of us last year, separately, a bit about the tax stuff and just, things just in general, like, what's the vibes? What's the morale like? How do you guys feel? Are you optimistic about the future of either your individual business or the industry as a whole? Like, yeah, give us a bit of a, bird's eye view of everything.
Yeah, I can kick that off. I'd say, it's the vibes are up and down. It sort of depends on the perspective we're taking. Right. I try to take a big perspective as much as possible and think that, okay, in general, our position is nice. Like, I like what we're doing. I like that we're pushing things forward. We just released 2 smoothie gelato sour, called them melted gelato sours last week.
So cool.
Which just feels so good. We get customers coming in and they're kind of like, their minds are blown and they're digging it. They've never seen anything like that before, at least in this kind of area, which is really cool. But then, yeah, obviously, like brew culture closed. I don't know what the story is there, but that felt like a big thing. And breweries closing and accounts, a lot of our accounts have closed in the last year. I'm sure like once you're established and around long enough, you probably see a rhythm to, bars opening and closing. But when you're, we're 3 years in and we've been building. And for the first time, some accounts dropping off and, which is stressful. And then, worried about not getting paid for product that you've sent all over Ontario, driving your van, into the ground. But I think in general, we're positive. Yeah. Like locally, the Kingston craft beer scene, I think, is developing, and the customers are becoming more educated and they're less kind of shocked by, a $6 double IP, triple IPA or whatever, or a $5.50 short can of smoothie sour. They kind of understand it. Whereas at first, I don't know if they did. And then that's also, the local accounts that we have now are awesome. Like it took a while for the first for the first year and a half with bottle shops exploding, or not exploding, but opening during COVID. A lot of our sales were out of town, which was good, but it'd be better if we had way more sales in town. And
Yeah,
so
always better if you can have stuff going out your front door.
Yeah. So my mindset has shifted a lot. And I know one or two breweries in town that have been around for a long time that only focus on Kingston because they can have great relationships with everyone. And they can provide their product on a day. I think one of the places delivers 4 times a week. Like, you call, you're going to get your beer straight away. And so I'm really encouraged about kind of the local nature of craft beer and the evolving market. I thought Ontario would evolve quicker than it has over the last sort of 4 years, 6 years, but it's been so hard for people, with the pandemic and with people having tight budgets and all that. So it's understandable why things have looked negative, but yeah, I just feel like if we can get through it, and find some money to continue to invest in a new tank once in a while or whatever, then we'll be happy with that for now. Make sure everyone gets paid. But,
yeah. It's funny. The ones that owe you the most money are the ones that shut down.
Yeah.
Like, God damn it.
Yeah. The ones that owe you the most money are the ones that get shut down. Yeah.
Which is, should be the
Yeah.
most obvious sign at the end of the day. But
yeah, it's obvious, right? So those are growing pains just of a newer business too, and also not being professional enough. So we learned from that we have to become more professional. Like, I've hired a part-time data entry bookkeeper just to help chase invoices down and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
I feel like
it's all process.
I feel like as recently as like December, January, the vibes might have been the worst. I feel like, anyways. I feel like there was like some real negativity around the industry and just like a lot of, there was just, I think, a lot of people that were really, really stressed out. And I don't think that that's like gone away completely. But like when you said that it's kind of up and down, I think across the industry, I feel that way. I had a lot of conversations with brewery owners, and I mean, January is never good. But this January was exceptionally piss poor. And it was like, we had some conversations in January, and even in like coming into November, people talking about like, once December hits, people are going to, go through December, get that good month, and then we're going to see a lot of closures. And we saw some closures for sure. But the conversations I was having in January were like nothing short of dark, man. Like it was pretty gnarly out there. But I think that like for the most part, the people that I've been talking to have weathered the storm, and I think the outlook is a lot more positive now. I wouldn't say that it's like overwhelmingly positive, but I would say that I think it's more positive than it was. And that's the thing. It's like what you mentioned, Andrew, is like with a 3-year-old business, and it's always just been kind of on the up. And then all of a sudden it's like things start to take a bit of a turn. It's like, and it's been I think it's been over a decade. I mean, like a lot of the breweries that have been open, I mean, we have something like, I forget how many, but like 350 breweries or something in Ontario now. And, half of those opened in the last decade, and all of those breweries, short of like when the pandemic first hit, like there wasn't really a lot of like bumps in the road. There was like, how can we figure out this beer? How can we figure out that beer? How can we get more people in the tap room? But at the end of the day, it was like to grow. It wasn't, how do we get more people in the tap room to like maintain, or how do we get more people in the tap room to like pay our bills this month? So it was like, I think a lot of brewery owners and a lot of breweries just in general had to like, be real introspective and be like, okay, like what do we got to do here to get through, and really start thinking of the bigger picture, and like, what are the things that we can really do to like kind of push ourselves forward or make ourselves stand out, and get through this. Because at the end of the day, like you said, like you mentioned, like, the Ontario beer scene as a whole kind of like evolving. I think it evolved from like the number of breweries quicker than it evolved from the number of like really hardcore craft beer drinkers. And so, it's like finding that way. And I think that like, good people are going to find a way to make it work. And hopefully they're they're not leveraging more of their mortgage than they have to. But like, yeah, you know, it's like, I think like people were like, okay, I'm scared. And then a lot of guys were like, and girls and people in the industry were just like, we got to buckle down and figure this shit out if this is what we really care about. And this is like the thing that I have mortgaged my entire life on to try, then I have no option but to figure this out. And I think like you see it across the industry, a lot of different breweries trying things that they might not have tried before, expanding into different things that they've never done before, or even just like a lot just really focusing on what is it that we do really well, and like let's just pound that and continue to do that, and just, you know, so anyways, hopefully it's like that moment of reflection where we all have to like figure out how the hell we're going to make this shit work is only going to help the industry evolve. I hope it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. Thanks for that, guys. It's really interesting to hear the perspective. It makes me sad to hear that January was that bad.
Yeah. It did feel pretty bleak at the time. It seemed like the vibe just in general was pretty low.
Well, I think it was kind of like we're all fucked, and it's like, well, no, we're not all fucked. We're all fucked if we just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
If we go out and rather than like take orders, we go and find orders, or if we, you know, like we instead of like just wait for people to walk in the door, we go and grab them and pull them in the door. Then it's like, oh, then maybe, you know, we can work through this, and the people who really care about it and the people who really want to work at the end of the day and like put in the effort and do everything that they can do. Like, I'm not saying like that's all you need to do and it's just going to buff out, but it's like, it did, I think, force a lot of people to just really think about what it is they were doing.
On that note, have either of you tried, like I think Jeff, you just mentioned, like, you know, people trying things they hadn't before, and as you said that, I was kind of thinking of a few breweries. I was like, oh yeah, some of them have gone into distro, and maybe some breweries have tried different styles to maybe attract a different demo. Have either of you guys tried anything recently that either worked or didn't work? Like even just sharing that knowledge, you know, if there's anyone in the industry listening, which I imagine is most people watching or listening to this, you know, that might, you know, have be trying to think of some stuff. Was there any sort of just like feedback on like, hey, all right, we tried these two things, one did great, one didn't do shit? Like, you guys got anything like that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of more specific examples, but the one thing is trying to change my mindset, or our mindset, from being scared of asking too much from our licensee customers in terms of, you know, price, expectations for delivery, whatever it is, and to just sort of be more assertive. I think it seems like there might be a few breweries in the province that have more power when it comes to distribution, to like craft beer bar licensees, I mean, and also local licensees, like to go to our local place and try to explain to them why they should be willing to pay $30 more for our keg versus another local one. And that's worked, you know, charging fair value for distribution and delivery. Like, we just didn't do that before. I don't know. I don't know why. I think I was just like afraid of asking for too much. And that was, I think, other breweries that I've talked to, you know, have said we just have to raise our keg prices or whatever. Like, especially if you're distributing from Kingston to wherever. But yeah, not being afraid to ask the customer for a bit more. Same with our pricing for our cans. Like, we're still not at the top of the market in Ontario, but some of our pricing we hadn't changed in 2 years, and you know, the ingredient cost has gone up. Everything's gone up, and you look at the value in that beer and it's not as much as it was before. So just having the courage seems like an overstatement, but just like the gumption to actually make some of those hard decisions, which is difficult for me because, you know, you just don't want to lose customers, whether they're bars or people walking in the front door. And we have had people walk out the front door because they don't want to pay for whatever a case of double IPA costs, you know.
If you're buying a case of double IPA,
hopefully they should know it's but
yeah.
A couple of people love oats and cream or whatever, one of our beers, and they realize it's $100 however many dollars for 24 of them. It's like, yeah, that's what it costs, unfortunately.
It's about right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. And pricing has become real difficult too. I think like you know, like you alluded to earlier, Andrew, is like people are on a budget. I mean, to live is insane. I mean, you don't need to be talking about beer to realize that like the cost of living is insane. You hear about it every day. It's like one of our favorite Ontario pastimes is to complain about how much houses cost. And it's not like it's not granted, like it's nuts.
Wow.
You know, driving a vehicle costs you a ton of money now. Buying a vehicle, like all of these things, groceries. I mean, we've got a boycott going on with one of the grocery chains right now. Like, you know, things aren't good when shit like that's happening. And I think that it's like giving people a reason. We talk about it all the time is like we can charge whatever we want to charge for the beers, but like it has to be, people have to find value in that. Like you can sell a $7 beer, you can sell a $3 beer, you can sell a $4 beer, but as long as the people who are buying that beer find value in the product that you're giving them, then you can charge it. But at the end of the day, you can't charge $7 for a beer or $6 for a beer or even $3 for a beer if it's not worth that money, right? So it's like people are, I think what we've found a little bit anyways is that people are a lot less willing to try something these days that they might not know what it's like. They don't want to part with $6 for an IPA style that they've never tried before, or they might buy one, but you know, whether or not they are going back to their standard beer that they're usually buying is like, you know, people just don't want, you really have to make a case for people to part with their dollars these days because you're fighting so many different things. I mean, people buying groceries over beer is a pretty clear choice. So it's like, we've really just focused like, things that we've, I guess, tried or changed is like, I think just like really trying to produce quality products for the best price that we can. And like you said, you know, you got to charge what you have to charge for beer, but you know, how can we do this thing or that thing where we can maybe get more yield, or maybe we can get more hop aroma or hop flavor out of a smaller amount or whatever it might be. So that these customers still feel as though they're getting value. Like we talk about value all the time. Value and experience go hand in hand. And it's like, if people aren't having a good experience, they're not coming back. And if people don't feel as though they're getting value for their money, they're not coming back. You know, it's the reason there's a lot of restaurants you go to once and never again. It's like, okay, cool, that was good, but not worth my money. And now I think people are just like really, really, that's like at the forefront. And not that it wasn't before, but you know, during COVID, even like, you know, I hate to be bringing up the pandemic still, but like a lot of people, not everyone, there's a lot of people who lost their jobs, and there was a lot of people who the pandemic beat the shit out of, but there was also like a significant amount of people who got paid to do their job still, and they were doing it at home and they had nothing to spend their money on. And I know that our online sales were insane. I mean, it was, you know, people were going out and they were sitting at home and they were bored and they were drinking, and they, you know, one cool thing was to buy a bunch of different types of beer because you can sit with your buddy, or no, not your buddy because we weren't allowed to be together, but your wife or whoever was in your family or whoever. What was it? We called it a pod, right? Whoever was in your pod.
Yeah. Jeez, that's a throwback.
We did driveway beers and garage beers, but I kid, but you know, in all seriousness, it's like that was something that like brought people some connection and you know, a release. But now it's like, okay, well, I see all these people at work every day. I don't need to drink beers with them, and I'm broke. So you know, what beers am I going to spend my hard-earned dollars on? So we've just tried to like, we focused a lot on our flagships, but still like the releases are huge. But I think like maybe to our detriment, you know, there's beers that we want to make sometimes that we know aren't going to sell. Like Andrew, I'm sure you guys do the same thing. You're like, I really want to make a peach because I think it'll be fucking tasty. And then you've got a pallet in your fridge for the next 4 months, and you're like, why on earth did we ever do this? And you kind of knew you shouldn't have. But at the end of the day, you're like, we wanted to. But now it's like, you know, and the same as the consumers, you don't want to spend money on things that you don't know is going to be a hit or you don't know is going to be good. I also don't want to spend money on ingredients and random shit that I've never bought before and paying whatever the person who's going to supply it to me charges, just taking a chance. You know, we want to take chances. We want to make different beers, and we want to do things that are interesting and that get more people interested in craft beer because it seems like less and less are. But yeah, like those chances became like, you know, calculated risk. And then the calculated risk just had to become more and more and more calculated over time, I feel like.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. And a quick anecdote on that, I saw about as far as like the people's perception. I saw a subreddit in the Toronto craft beer one, and someone posted they were shitting on the prices of a particular brewery that I won't name because I'm a fan of theirs. And I commented. I normally don't comment on these things, and I've got like you know, what's a fake Reddit? Not a fake Reddit account, but you don't know it's me. Whatever, Finsta, a burner account.
Ghost account or burn.
Yeah.
Isn't that every account on Reddit?
Basically, some people just have their photo, but I'm like, yeah, I'm like, you know, you want to keep Reddit, and I was just like, yeah, unless you really want people to just know who you are when they fucking tear you to pieces. But I commented something basically like, look, I disagree. I understand that it's expensive, but a lot of the brewery, because I know, obviously, I don't want to say that I host a podcast, whatever, but I'm like, I talk to all these people, and I know for a fact that the vast majority of people and the brewery that we're talking about is in the league of the brewery with you guys that has expensive beers because there's a lot of expensive ingredients, and that you guys have been eating the cost for a lot of these for quite some time because you're very concerned, like you were saying, Jeff, about price. And I got downvoted to shit. It's like everyone wants a fucking, you know, 8% double IPA with like 800,000 pounds of Nelson and Moteca for $4 or something. Like they just don't get it. And then they got mad to the point. I'm just like, that was a bit I guess expected, but still disappointing just to see that lack of understanding, and someone that they're all taking the time to go shit on this one particular brewery who makes great beers, and for something that not one of them seemed to understand. And I really thought I was quite logical, but I guess not.
But I mean, with certain audiences, it's one of those things of, if you've already decided what your stance is, like no amount of logic is gonna make you change your mind. Like I mean, like Reddit is not is really not the place for for kind of reasoned discourse. It's you know, you kind of come into it pre-entrenched.
No, I think there's also like there's so much craft beer in the LCBO now, and you can go get a you know, and it says it on the can, hazy double IPA, and you can get that at 8.5%, and you can get that for $3.95. And it's the thing is like, I hate to say, like, you know, like a lot of consumers just don't know, but like, it's not the same beer. It's called the same. Really not. Yeah. But that would be like calling Molson Canadian because it's a lager, or Miller Lite because it's a Pilsner, the same as Pilsner or Kel. I mean, they're just not comparable products. It's the same name, yes, but it's not the same product. It's like, you can't take, and I guess we won't name breweries, but like, you can't take the $3.95 double IPA loaded up with fruit and compare it to a fine balanced double IPA with fruit, because first and foremost, there's no hops in the $3.95 one, and there's fruit extracts in the $3.95 one, where you're talking about a beer from Fine Balance. You've got 3,000 pounds of Motueka Nelson, and you've got real fruit in it. Like, it's just not the same. And I think that like people are not falling for that, but it's like it's tough, because I always talk about like craft beer and macro beer used to be like very easily identifiable as different. I mean, like when Ontario craft beer got popular, it was like everyone was making Sierra Nevada clones. It was like Mill Street Tank House, and it was like these beers that looked different, and they smelled different, and they taste different, and it was like very easy. You could see as soon as someone was walking around with a pint in a pub that it was a different beer. And now it's becoming, I think, less and less easy for people to discern those differences. I guess it's like, you know, we're battling like Square Wheels as a hazy IPA in the LCBO at 425 tax in. I'm like, it hurts me every time that we sell a can, because I'm just like, man, I believe that this beer is worth more because we've been making it the same way for a long time. But, you know, everyone's like, well, I can go and get Juicy Ass for $3.15 and hate the IPA. I'm like, it's first and foremost not. but I know it says it on the can, but like it's not, and it's like put the beers beside each other, and they're just not the same fucking thing. So it's like battling that as well is very difficult. Thought we weren't naming breweries, but
here we are.
I would say something kind of related to what we're talking about here, which is we're not going to make a hazy IPA and sell it for $4 or $3.75 or whatever. But one thing we have changed actually, like in our, not that we've had a formal regroup, but some of the things that Jeff's talking about, like, you know, we use 702 in the tank now, increase our yield a little bit on our batches. We've made some small changes to try to improve our efficiency. But also just like thinking about our customers. So we've known since we opened that we sell the most, like more Pilsner than anything else on draft. It's not like it doesn't take rocket science to guess that might happen, especially where we're located and who's coming in. Yet we're running out of Pilsner kegs. We were running out of Pilsner kegs, you know, we didn't have any for draft. So we've, and thinking about like the discounted beers too. So now we always have a Pilsner, maybe not the same one, but we always have a Pilsner in cans, and theoretically always have it in draft. Like I think we ran out a few weeks ago at some point for a week, but so now we're doing, you know, double batches of Pilsner back to back. Just the tank is always filled with Pilsner. Like let's do that. Whereas a year ago we might go 3 months, or not 3 months, but we might go a month with having no Pilsner.
Yeah.
So, and that's not, and then so those customers are the ones that don't want the, you know, $6, $5.50 IPA, but they appreciate a good Pilsner. And I think often they like it more than they would like, you know, Coors Light or whatever. And it's also really, really good for licensees in Kingston that might not understand our IPAs either. Like, oh yeah, we'll throw your Pilsner on tap. That's great. Right. And that's good for us because we sell way more than, you know, we've had some really nice beer that just sits at some account, and maybe it takes them like 2 or 3 months to go through a keg if they're just not busy. And then by the end of that, the beer doesn't taste good either. So
right.
Give the people what they want. That's what we always say around the brewery. Give the people what they want.
Yeah.
If we want to pay our bills, we have to sell beer. And if we want to sell beer, we have to give the people what they want. And it's like, we want to do what we find fulfilling, and we want to be creative, but at the end of the day we have to balance that, and we gotta give the people what they want, and our customers aren't all the same. We're like, as you said, Andrew, like, you know, you guys make exceptional hazies. We focus on hazies, but like at the end of the day, that's not our entire customer base. Like not everyone who walks in the door goes, oh fuck, I heard these guys make great hazy IPAs. They're just going, oh, this is cool. This is a brewery that, you know, my cousin's uncle's brother told me to go to, so I'm gonna try something out. And like you said with the Pilsner, like, you know, our quick one is by far the fastest selling beer on draft. To go, Square Wheels by far. Yeah, but like those are different people. Some people are coming to have a pint, and some people are coming to buy beer to take home and drink it and talk about it with their buddies, right? So they're not just all cut from the same cloth. Everyone's a little different.
And like, when we opened, this idea of pushing, I wanted to try to help push the market in Kingston, you know, like encourage people to appreciate hazy IPAs and fruited sours. But that's also kind of ignorant on my part. Like, we want to do that, but we also can't we need to respect all these other people that want to come in and use our space as a community oriented space. If we're presenting ourselves that way, then we need to, just like respect those customers. And now, you know, on Friday, we had a big military send off for someone, and they took up the whole patio, and they're just all drinking Pilsners and Weizen. Not all, but, you know, 80%. So it's also, we need to, it's a business. There's definitely a business case for it, but there's also like a moral case probably for not just ignoring all these people that live around the brewery that are going to come in and become regulars and become friends in some cases.
Well, another thing is, like, you can't get everyone hooked on your beer by not everyone goes from a Miller Lite to a hazy, right? So like if you can capture them with the pills, and they're like, oh shit, this craft beer shit's not that bad, eh? And then like, maybe after the 10th time, like maybe I'll try this pale ale, like see what that's all about. I mean, that's how you turn people into craft beer people. It's not like the light switch just goes off, right? My buddies had to feed me craft beer for like 3 fucking years before I was like, all right, that one's not bad. Like, you know, so it's definitely like you got to capture people. And I think that's like, going back to like the January conversation stuff, it's like, okay, how do we capture more people? Because just like putting out 7 beers a week isn't doing it. So how do we capture more people? Because at the end of the day, craft beer people are, they don't stay craft beer people up forever. Sometimes they have kids, sometimes you can't afford it anymore. And they're like, fuck, I got to pay for these. Like, I got to pay for daycare now. I got to do this. I got to do that. Like, I can't afford craft beer anymore. Like, it's a luxury, right? And it's like, yeah, how do you find new people? Because, we want customers to stick with us forever, but at the end of the day, they don't. And at the end of the day, like, okay, who are you going to get? So you need the gateway drug.
Yeah. So it's really about listening is really the key thing I'm hearing here is listening to the community, listening to different segments of customers, listening to the licensees, and really trying to deliver value at all times and give people what they want whilst kind of nudging them further down that craft beer tunnel as such.
I think 100%. I'm not a very good listener, but I think you hit the nail on the head.
I'm trying my best.
As you might have noticed.
That was well summarized, Greg.
I love this. This is super valuable takeaways. So on that note, shall we crack a pill?
Yep. I think it's a good time to crack another one. And I think we hit on a couple of points, which is a nice lead into to one of the topics that we had planned. So let's do it.
Yes, it really is. So I actually haven't had this one surprisingly, but this is Fine Balance Bankroll Italian Pilsner. Heist. Who is Heist, Andrew?
So yeah, Heist is they're a really nice restaurant downtown Kingston. They've been open for, I guess, probably 2 years now. And yeah, through a friend of a friend type of thing, we heard that they were potentially interested in their own beer. And they have no draft. They only have cans, which is kind of interesting. It's a huge, upscale Italian restaurant. They have like a wine locker or something. If you have your own wine, you could store it there.
Oh, one of them.
So it's pretty it's for Kingston. It's advancing the culture, I'd say.
That's dope.
Somewhere I've only been a few times, because it's pretty expensive. But, it's good. No, it's good value. It's good value, Jeff. It's really good value. It's really good value. And they're great to work with. Yeah. So basically, this is something that I don't know. I might not have been super keen to do at the beginning when we opened, but now it seems like a fun little side project. So we've done a few. I actually have this one, Pizza Monster, here as well. Yeah, it's a good friend of mine opened this pizza place. It's the best pizza in Kingston. It's really great. So had the whole team from this restaurant over and spent, I put on my best sales hat, which doesn't come out very often. And we tasted a whole bunch of stuff and then, settled on this one, which I think just has Tet and Sapphire in it for hops, but it's just,
What was the first one?
Pretty easy. Tetnager.
Oh, Tetnager and Sapphire or whatever.
Sapphire.
Whatever it is, something like that.
Yeah. So, but again, it's not something that we would have necessarily thought we would be doing, this sort of branded collaboration beer. But it's worked out really well. It's been a really nice relationship. They order a certain amount of sort of cases per month, whatever. I think it's their most popular beer on their menu because they push it more because it's their own kind of branded beer. It's exposing us to, a new kind of customer base that we might not have otherwise had. They're excited about the brewery. Everyone who works there is excited about the brewery, which I think is great for us. We try to treat them well. They treat us pretty well and they're talking about us, which is good. So and also just to have that regular thing, so we can have Pilsners in the tank regularly and package them and set them aside and have a more predictable schedule, which is good. That's another thing we've switched to in the last sort of 6 months to a year. Let's try to build out our schedule a little more, have regular brews. We know when we're brewing what beers roughly, and then we leave some slots open to do collabs or, fun things or whatever. But yeah, so this has been an interesting project. So from this, I think we probably have We have at least 3 different Pilsners that we have partnered with different accounts. The first one was Volo, and they're still selling it, which is awesome. And then the Pizza Monster one, and then this Heist.
Hell yeah. So smart. Well, first and foremost, gentlemen.
Yeah, sorry. Cheers.
Cheers. No, it's all
Cheers.
good.
Yeah.
That's money. I fucking love Italian Pilsners.
For
It's
anyone watching, we should probably point out that Jeff is not drinking Bankroll.
That is,
Jeff, I'm so sorry. We've driven by town. We've driven by your brewery, so many times in the last 2 weeks. But
when everyone cracked a quick one and you didn't, I was like, God damn it, I'm an asshole. And then I was like, wait, I wasn't his either. We're on the same page.
No, you're not an asshole.
I think that was our fault. I think we didn't
I
arrange
was going to say
it.
disclaimer, that is not his pill. Your pills.
And it's definitely our fault, not you guys' fault.
No, it's not my fault as well. And I was looking through my fridge because I often have 1 or 2 town beers kicking around from wherever they come.
I was going to say, I've had the Pizza Monster. I don't have any right now, but I've had the Pizza Monster.
Yeah. But they're fun little projects to do. I don't know if you guys do anything like that, Jeff.
I think, we definitely have seen as you said, like you hit the nail on the head. Like it was a cool collaboration to do that's going to get people interested in your beer that wouldn't typically be interested in your beer. And that's literally I think as owners or marketing people or salespeople, whatever, that's literally what we have to do right now. And we've done a lot of collaborations and they're really fun to do. Like brewery collaborations are awesome. For the most part, it's like sending back and forth a bunch of emails about recipes and nerding out on malts and hops and stuff like that, which is super fun. But then when it comes down to the brew day, it's like, we've had multiple collabs where the collaborating brewery that comes doesn't make it past out of the tap room and into the which is fine. Most of the work's been done before. The brewer doesn't want you in their way anyways, because you're just really fucking it up trying to get a picture by pouring a bag of malt in the milk. But at the end of the day, it's those are super fun. But these other collaborations that we do, we call them lifestyle collabs, just to classify them. It's great because it's exciting for it's more exciting for us because there's not no collaboration on the recipe. There's collaboration in a different way. You're not nerding out on malts and hops with them, but you're trying to pull out what they want to see, what flavor profile and mouthfeel and all these different things that then you can go back to the drawing board and you can kind of build a recipe. And then the day that they come in, they're fired up. You can't get them out of the back and into the top. You guys want to go have a beer or what? Collabs are supposed to be about drinking beer, and they're they're looking into the mash and they're looking into the kettle, and they can't wait to smell the hops and rub them. And there's always one of them that wants to eat one, even though you tell them it's a terrible idea. But it's and it's invigorating in that way. And you're absolutely right. The people who go back from that, they're lifelong fans of yours, and they're telling their friends and their family about how great it was. They got to spend time at the brewery and this and that. And then you see them the day it releases or the weekend it releases because they're coming in and they're bringing friends to try it. And it's those are the things that are going to get new craft beer customers drinking craft beer because there's a reason it's exciting to them. And so, we've done a few of them, and they've been great, and it's a lot of fun. It's just a different way to kind of look at it, and it's we at one time were is this do we call this a collab? Is this really a collab? And we're absolutely, it's a collab. It's a collab. We're talking, we're trying. They might not be collaborating on the brew sheet, the grist and the hop schedule, but it's definitely a collaboration, and it's it's working. So if you were such a dick, I'd be able to try that beer right now. But
in the case of this one with Heist too, with them not having draft lines, I think that there's actually a benefit in that because when someone orders a bankroll, they're getting a fine balanced can in front of them at the table, which otherwise they may have just seen the words Bankroll Pilsner on a menu, but this way they're seeing the name Fine Balance and knowing that hey, it's a local Kingston brewery that made this beer.
For sure. Yeah, no, totally. And they do make a point of putting the can on the table. You know, I'm not sure the size of the glasses, but they put the can on the table every time. So I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of related to that, you know, it's a fun experience. It feels authentic to do some of these things. Like we try to have just good conversations, no matter who we're collaborating with, if it's a brewery or anyone else. Try to be honest and forthcoming as much as we can. From a like larger business scale perspective, though, it is also marketing to me. Like that's, you know, we don't have a marketing budget per se, really at all, but we take time out of our days to meet with people, to travel to other breweries, or to travel to events if we're doing a beer launch somewhere or something. And like to your point, Jeff, like those are people that are getting super excited and are going to tell their friends and bring their friends. And that's like, you know, on the ground marketing, but it doesn't translate to like people that think of marketing more traditional way. You know, I still get calls trying to get me to spend $250 a month to be in the local like East End magazine or whatever. And, I've had this conversation with them and they don't he just doesn't understand. It's like we're speaking two different languages.
It's like experiential marketing, right? It's like if you can get someone to do something, they're going to remember it and they're going to talk about it. And it's just like, I definitely agree. It's the best marketing we do. And even going back to like the brewery collabs, you know, that's obviously great marketing, collaborating with different breweries and having, you know, visibility within their markets or whatever. But I also think like the brewery collabs and just like collabs in general, like there's no other industry that I know of really, maybe like apparel or whatever, but I don't think there's any industries where like the companies within the, like you're not seeing Nike and Adidas collab.
Yeah.
You see Nike collab with an artist or a musician, but you're not seeing like the businesses from the same industry collab. And I know that I'm not, and I know that I'm not like, you know, opening anybody's eyes here, but I think it's so important because like I like going back to like when the times were tough, you know, like there's breweries out there doing things that they said they would never do. And there's breweries out there who it's like when push comes to shove and shit hits the fan, it's like, okay, well, how cool are we all together? And it's like, you know, oh, I would never touch your tap. But then all of a sudden it's like, well, shit, like we've got a lot of beer or we've got to pay our electrical bill this month. And it's like, all of a sudden it's like, sometimes you're not as good at homies as you thought you might've been. So it's like doing those collabs and continuing to do that. And I think like I had in a lot of the conversations that I had with other brewery owners is like this isn't the time where we can like freak out. This is the time where we literally have to like prove to, and it sounds so stupid, but like prove to the world, like prove to the Ontario craft brewing community or prove to just people in general is like, this is still a super collaborative environment. Like this is still like one of those things. It's like, that's what makes craft beer so cool. That's what makes craft beer so open. That's what makes craft beer such like a real thing. And I like, it's, you know, if it's not even a marketing thing for your brewery, I think it's like doing these collaborations and talking about them and getting excited about them is like marketing for like craft beer as a whole, I think. And it's like really just like hammering down on the thing that differentiates craft beer from really everything else and giving people a reason, giving young people who like typically at the end of the day don't really give a shit about craft beer, giving them a reason to be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I can't believe they do that. Or like, you know, it's not always the hop combos anymore that's like grabbing people's attention. It's the other things that we're doing. It's the community outreach. It's the community connections. It's the inter-craft beer connections that are like, you know, grabbing people's attention and be like, oh, that's maybe something I should pay attention to. Right. So just maybe a little bit of a tangent there, but
no, this is fucking awesome. Like what you both just said, once again, I want to keep summarizing because I feel like you guys are dropping crazy gems that are very like actionable, which is important. Is that essentially you're saying that one way to attract new drinkers and to tap into the community at a deeper level and to expose yourself to new drinkers is to collaborate with local restaurants, other businesses, and say like bands or brands, which will open you up to a whole new bunch of people
and nonprofits too, right? Which
that's something you do with the quarterly thing
yeah.
that you guys do as well. We did, obviously you both did link up. You do that regularly with Fine Balance. I know you guys do that, which is super cool. And then Jeff, I know you guys are doing a whole, like, you guys are really focused on the band thing. You do a lot of events with that, and it's like I've seen a bunch of other breweries do it too. And I feel like the ones that do it, all the things you both are doing, and the breweries that are doing it, it feels pretty organic. It doesn't feel like a marketing exercise as such. I feel like I don't see, Andrew, you doing something with a nonprofit, or Jeff, you doing something with like a fucking hardcore band or whatever. I'm like, oh, this is I'm like, no, I really feel like that. Like neither of you would. It's not that serious, but like sacrifice integrity to do something kind of like against your core values just to.
Yeah, like it feels authentic.
Very much.
My marketing analysis was done retroactively too. It's not like when we started all these things, it wasn't thought out. It was just it was that. It's like
made sense.
This seems like the right thing to do, like and in terms of collaborating with other breweries, like it just gets us really excited. Like and we're learning and we're like super when we did a collab with Town, or when we went to Volo for the first time, or we collab with Third Moon or whatever, we're like, we're fans too, right? We're big fans.
Right. Big time. I think it's so sweet to be around people who are like just as passionate about beer as you are, because like, again, there's not a lot of people, at that level, but when you collab with breweries, for sure, it's just like when people are just like so excited to drink beer, like, I've gone to breweries and asked like, what would you suggest? And like, I don't know. I drink wine. I'm like, what the fuck are you working for?
I'm surprised how often we hear that.
Like, this is not the industry to be in if like you don't really care about it. And so that for like breweries, as far as breweries go, it's like we just want to collab with breweries that are just as passionate about beer as we are, and just like, like are down for the cause and just want to like push this thing forward. But when it comes to like bands and stuff like that, it's just organic. Like we put on shows all the time. So it makes sense that we like, when we find a band that we're putting on a show with and they're like, oh, it's rad that you guys are a brewery. And we're like, oh shit, you guys care about craft beer? Cool. Like, do you want to make a beer with us? And like, fuck yeah, we want to make a beer with you. They're usually real jacked up. But one thing that we actually did, and I'll keep this brief, is though, we started this thing called the Community Brew. And it was just an idea I think it was in like April or May or something. Anyways, we were like not in busy season yet. We're a little slower. Like, how can we like engage more people? Like, how can we get people to go out and like sing our praises? And so we used our mailing list, and we're like, hey, the first 10 people who reply to this email can come in and brew a beer with us. 10. Yeah, 10 people. So the first 10 people who reply to this email can come and brew a beer with us on a Saturday, and you can bring a friend. So we're like, no, I don't know how this will go. Like, we'll see. And we send the email, and literally, I think it was like 7 minutes that we had like 100 responses or something like that. It was something mental. And like Travis, our sales and marketing guy, who like literally is responsible for pretty much everything good the town does. And everybody else who works there. I'm just and I'm responsible for much of it. But shout out to Travis. Yeah, I felt so bad for him because he had to reply. Like, he had to like reply to like 90 people and tell them like they were shit out of luck. But it was dope because we did like a Zoom call weeks before, and we talked to everybody. And we're like, "What do you guys want to make?" And like, we steered the conversation the way that we kind of wanted to, and whittled down the options. And then it was an IPA. Surprise, surprise. And then on brew day, we're like, okay, well, we're going to pick the Whirlpool hop. And then while you guys are there, like, we'll do a hop rub, and you guys can like decide what hops you think are best. And like, that's what we'll dry hop it with, because that'll happen, 7 days from now or whatever. And the response, man, was unbelievable. It was wild. We were just like, these people are like kids in a fucking candy store. It was like the first time you like home brewed and you saw the little bubbles when your beer started carbonating, and you're like, oh my God, it's actually working. This is fucking wild. And they were just all fired up. Right? Like, one guy got so loaded. He was just so excited. He was just like sculling double IPAs. And before we knew it, but it's things like that, right? Because then we had a release night. It wasn't like a big thing. It was like, hey guys, come down. You can have a couple of drafts, and if you want to buy some beer, buy some beer. And like, everybody showed up. They all brought people. They all brought friends. they're all pointing at the tank, showing them like, you know, we're giving them like the Cold Smokes version of our tour. And it was just like, it's like moments like that, or like times like that, you're like, oh my God. Cause a lot of the time, like, I won't lie to you, a lot of the time I'm like, I'm in a management meeting, I'm like, no one gives a shit about craft beer anymore. Like, what the fuck are we gonna do? And then you have moments like that, and you're like, oh man, like people care. Like there's a lot of people that care, and there's a lot of people that like really care. And some of them didn't even know they cared until they had that opportunity, or until their buddy was like, you have to come to this thing with me, I'm not going alone. Right. So it's like little things like that. And I think when I go back to like thinking outside of the box and really like, you know, our first industry kind of dip is like, okay, what are we going to do? Like, we got to figure some shit out. So like, what are we going to do? And that one was like, I don't know if it'll work. And it's a lot of work, and it's this and that. It's like, it's not a lot of work. It was like a couple of emails. It was a Zoom call, and it was literally like a regular brew day that we just did on a Saturday instead of a Friday. And it was awesome. It was great. We've had one guy, like, he's tried to sign up for every single one that we've done since. We're like, dude, you can't come anymore. Like, you can't do it.
You gotta chill, brother.
But like, it really is like, you know, craft beer was and is just so much about like connecting with community and like giving people more than what they like expect, right? And I think we maybe got into a moment there where we just like expected customers to give us their money for whatever it was that we gave them. And I think like we need to fight for people's dollars, and we don't necessarily need to fight each other for people's dollars, but we need to fight Loblaws, and we need to fight Esso, and we need to fight fucking mortgages. Like we like, you know, it's tougher out there. So we need to be more intriguing to people, and we need to bring more value. So,
dude, that's so fucking genius. Like,
but it wasn't. It was just like, it was Mike. I mean, I'm not calling Mike not a genius. Mike, our head brewer, he is a genius. But he's like, what if we just like invited people in to like brew beer with us? We're like, yeah.
But that's like, it's a direct tap into the community. And what you just described is like, those people now are going to be emotionally and sentimentally attached to the brewery, which is kind of coming back to what you were both saying. It's like an extrapolation of that community thing of working with restaurants and, you know, like Andrew, you said, people at Heist were fucking amped on the brewery. And then now you've got these people who got to experience that. And obviously, like, doing that, when you were talking about it in like 15 years ago, there's this place in Melbourne called You Brew It. And it was this thing where they had like a list of like clones, and it was like I don't even remember, but in my mind it was like 99% lagers or whatever. But like, you know, you can do a Heineken clone, a Corona, and fucking blah blah blah. And they walk you through it. There's like a few taps on the wall, and then you come back 2 weeks later and you can bottle it or can it, and it's this whole experience. So my brother and I surprised my dad with that. He lost his fucking mind in the same way that you did. Like, he's like, what the, you know, we don't do much stuff like that. Like, and I'm boys, we suck. We're just terrible at gifts and stuff. So like, took him there, and what you described, Jeff, like with that, just reminded me of Dad. He was like, "What the fuck? Which beer do you want, man?" He bought a second fridge, a full-size fridge for the house to fit the beer, because they give you like 300 cans. It's not a small thing. Like, so he bought a second fridge, and he chose bottles for some reason. But like, that experience for him and being able to choose it, and you've got like the big, you know, LME, the liquid malt extract, and the other stuff, and you're pouring it into this big fucking jug, and you're pouring it into some bloke who works there, you know, the kettle. All right, put that in. Now you got to put the hops. He's like, oh wow, you're smelling it, and just that whole like attachment to that process, and then coming back 2 weeks later and bottling it or canning it. It was like this. It meant something. So when he's drinking that beer, he was probably thinking, oh yeah, my boys got me this. You know, this was a beautiful thing. And that's the same thing. Like, even if they won it, now they're like, oh, they were treated so good. And they are now sort of like, they won't, and they bring in friends, and then the friends are going to think this is cool, and the friends might start entering, or at the very least, they might just start being patrons, because they're like, these guys are cool. These guys treated my friend really good, and I really like the products, and it's a vibe. And it's
it's a sense of pride too, right? Like, you show people shit that you've made. You do something. I'm not handy, so if I do anything handy, I want everyone to see it. I created something. I don't give a shit if it's like an IKEA side table, but I'm like, yo, You like that?
See that? See this Allen key?
It's like a sense of pride, and they don't need to forever make every beer that they ever enjoy at town, but it's like, you know, they have a sense of pride from town, unless we let them down in some way, which, you know, we're diligently working not to do. It's like, unless we let them down in some way, they've got a sense of pride in that. So it's like, yeah, it's like, it's just different ways to like connect. And the same thing, like with the restaurant, like we've done restaurant clubs too. And like restaurant people are like, not saying like every restaurant people likes beer, but like they like to create things. They're in an industry that beats your ass down for not great money, and they do it because they love it. It's like nothing could be more of a mirror image than the brewing community. So it's like they get it, they understand it, they come in, and you got like, you know, for the most part, like we did a couple of collabs with restaurants, and the kitchen guys are just fucking in there. And they're like, yo, what's going on? And they're like, oh, this. You could always tell the kitchen guys because they're like, I'll take the double IPA at 11 a.m. And then they're the ones that are like staring into the mash tun the whole time, right? But they're like, oh, this is so cool. And they're really like, it doesn't matter what you create as long as you're a part of it. It's just like, yeah, it just adds that. It's just another level, man. It's just like, yeah, it's like it takes you back to when you like first started. Like, I don't know, Andrew, like when you guys got your first, like your brew kit at your brewery, like you remember the first time you fired it up.
Yeah, for sure.
The first time you knocked out, like you remember, like it's like, man, it's great. I remember the first time we were bottling, dude. We had like a 2-head bottler and we had to do 2,000 liters. It took us like 7.5 and we were so ignorant that we started at like 6 p.m. We finished bottling at like 2 a.m. and we all had to get Ubers home because we were all gassed. Like, because we had 1,000 low fills, right? But it's like, whenever we start to think like, oh yeah, I don't know, like, you know, no one cares. It's like, no, people care. You gotta make them care. Like, it's not getting force fed down their throats anymore. It's like craft beer is cool, but it is still cool. It's just they're not being told that. So like somebody needs to tell them that, and finding creative ways to connect, whether it's through a restaurant, whether it's through a band, whether it's through whatever. It's like that's what we have to do. We have no choice. Like if we want to make this thing work, and we want to succeed, and we want to be around for the next 20 years, if we don't want to start printing resumes, then like we have to figure it out.
But the other thing that I would just add to what you're saying, Jeff, which makes a lot of sense, and kind of hinted at this, but it's going to re-energize all the brewery staff. Like the brewers are excited because it's easy to just like let so much time pass and you're slogging away and everyone's just like, you know, grinding and hustling. But when you take a pause to have people in to do something cool or to make a new weird beer that you know might not sell or whatever it is, like you need to do those things, ideally in a pretty consistent, regular way. Yeah. For all the workers to be like, oh shit, yeah, this is why we work here. This is awesome. Totally. Otherwise, it's it's easy for morale to kind of fall away if it's not cool and fun for the people who work there.
That's it. Yeah, we find we have to schedule it because it's like you get so bogged down, you get so just like tunnel vision of like, okay, make square wheels, sell square wheels, make square wheels, sell square wheels, and then we're like, we'll do a community brew soon. We'll do we'll do a collab soon. We'll do it. And then it's like, no, like if it's not in that production calendar, if it's not in that marketing calendar, then it just doesn't get done. Right. And it's like, that was COVID. COVID was the worst for that because it's like, we were legit a factory. It was like, I was shutting the lights off at 5 p.m. on a Friday and leaving. I'm like, this place is supposed to be like bumping right now. Like there's supposed to be people, you know, hooting and hollering and having a good time. And I'm shutting the lights off and going home for the day. And, you know, the whole tap room's full of skids of boxes. And I'm like, this is dog shit. Like, this sucks. But like, you know, sales were there. So it's like, okay, whatever. It is what it is. It was just different. But you need to do those things, to energize the staff. And like the community brews, man, like the brewers are talking about people for like the next 3 weeks. They're just like, dude, remember that one guy? He fucking ate the hop. Like, what an idiot.
It's cool. Awesome. I love that. I feel like you guys have really broken that down. I feel like that's just, there's so many cool things that like, breweries can do in a time when it's there's more uncertainty than ever, both in real life and in the brewery world, and like trying to convert new drinkers and blah blah blah. You guys have laid out like real shit that any brewery can start tomorrow, and thank you for that. This is so dope. Should we, like, being conscious of time and our our movement, should we move on to the next one and then next topic?
Yep, I'd say so.
All righty. Jeffrey, you're up, mate. Tell us about this one.
OJ. So, OJ, Outside Jokes, is our
OJ.
OJ, I like that. Very nice.
That's the standard name around the brewery.
I like that.
Outside Jokes is our flagship pale ale. It's been around for, I don't know, 4 years or so. Just got a handsome new can, which like I'm very, very stoked about.
Love it.
But yeah, it's a hazy pale ale, 5%. This beer has changed over time. I mean, I don't think that's any secret to anybody who drinks craft beer, is that a lot of your favorite beers change over time. This one is, I think, in the best spot it's ever been. We have conversations about that a lot. We had some different like kind of hop changes in the last probably year, and we've landed on something that we're really happy with. It's an LCBO beer. It's just like super fresh pineapple orange juice. But yeah, it's like for a long time we'd really tried to like brew this beer to be like really big bodied. We wanted, like, we were stuck on this idea of having like this 5% pale ale that just tasted like an IPA, which I know is a goal for a lot of breweries. And then I think we just realized that, I think over the last little while anyways, we're like, man, dry beers aren't that bad. And dry beers don't need to be crystal clear. They can be a little bit lighter on the palate, but they can still have a ton of flavor. So like this beer finishes like sub 3 Plato. So as far as like a hazy beer, it's pretty dry. We actually, like, out of choice, drew back on the dry hop on this beer a little bit. We think it was getting a little bit kind of like too dank, and changed some stuff up in the whirlpool, like in the kettle. But I think that this beer is at the best that it's ever been, and I think that it's not trying to be a 5% pale ale that drinks like an IPA. I think it's just trying to be a really nice pale ale. And I love it. There's probably like a year and a half that I like never would take a can of beer home, or maybe even have it on draft. And not because I thought it was bad, but it just was like, well, I'll either drink an IPA or I'll drink a lager. And I'm finding myself drinking this beer more and more these days. So I'm pretty stoked on it right now.
Hell yeah. Love to hear it, gentlemen. As the kids say, get that in you.
Cheers.
Well, they don't really say it, do they? Fucking kids. Yeah, man.
It really does have pineapple right up on the nose.
Yeah. Super bright. Great body.
We were using Azaka in this beer for forever, but we were dry hopping with it. And then we decided that we wanted to just try a batch where we switched the Azaka to the Whirlpool and the Citra from the Whirlpool to the dry hop. And I think that we tinkered, like there was a few versions of it and different iterations, but I think like we've landed on the one that we're the most happy with probably. Yeah, I just think that, you know, it's not the best pale ale in the world, but it's my favorite pale ale.
She goes hard. No, it's great, man. It's a solid one. It's something that, like, I don't know, I feel like pale ales get fronted on a lot. I'm a big fan of pale ales, like sort of like what you're saying, like you found that you were gravitating towards these. I drink a pale ale every beer session if there were as many fire ones available as I would like.
Yeah.
I think they're completely underrated. And when you can, I feel like you can make a pale ale kind of like, you know, similar-ish body to an IPA whilst not feeling too full, like filling or whatever, that, you know, you get that sort of crushability in it while still having that punchy kind of tropical flavor. So I feel like you guys definitely nailed it with this one.
I feel like in the last year too, because like I've been finding that even IPAs and even double IPAs are more commonly being like being brewed and carved in such a way that like they have a lighter, frothier feel to them, so that they're not quite sitting as heavy on the palate. So like I think that's becoming a bit more mainstream, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I think like you know, a lot of the brewers that I had talked to, it's funny because they're like really into drier beers now. Like, you know, lagers, everyone's drinking lagers now. I'm like, oh shit, it's like kind of sweet that this beer doesn't make me feel like I'm not drinking 600 calories in each can. So it's funny. It's like, you know, we were trying so hard to make it big bodied, but like, I think a lot of the times that like big bodied and big flavor gets like confused. I think you can make a drier beer with a lot of flavor still. And like, you know, I honestly feel even like with hazies, like hazy IPAs and double IPAs, it's like, I think there was a period of time, I think it's like the IBU crisis of the early 2010s where everyone was just like, this beer is 4,687 IBUs, so suck it. I think like for a while it was just like making the thickest, milkiest looking beers possible, no matter what it kind of added, was a thing. And I don't think that that's the case anymore, which I'm really happy about. Like I had a Hot Knives, which is like literally looks like milk, like juice,
yellow milk,
which is great for a reason. But I think that like, I think people are more even like the beer nerds and the hopheads are more accepting of like beers that aren't completely opaque. I think that's the right word. And like, oh, this is like still really good, and it's not like completely, you know, it doesn't look like milk. I'm not saying that it's bad that they do, because a lot of our beers do, but I think that you can have a beer that like, you know, that's a hazy beer, but it's not anything like some of the beers that we've done that we were like really like disappointed in putting out a beer if it wasn't like 100%, you know what anyways, I think like we've just like it's not like we've gone we've attempted to get away from it, but I think we're a lot less disappointed if a beer, you know, isn't completely opaque. I've said opaque too many times now. It's completely I don't know if you've noticed that, Andrew, at all. Like
for sure, yeah. We've done so. Definitely been releasing some drier IPAs recently. Yeah, and happy with it. Like, we still do a lot of oat cream IPAs. Even then, we don't put a ton of lactose. They're not, you know, they're thicker, but it's not too crazy for like an oat cream. It's not like the old milkshake IPAs or whatever.
But even that like that's in there for a reason, right? And it's like part of the like I think that was it. Is for us is like, what are we doing this for a reason, or are we doing this just because we're chasing this like look? When you're making an oat cream IPA, I mean, it's like that's the flavor, like it's a flavor profile, it's everything, right? So it's like that has a reason for being in there, where it's like, I just think like I was talking to a brewery lately, and they have a new IPA that finishes at 1.8 Plato. Like 1.8 Plato is less than any Pilsner we've ever made. And the thing tastes fucking unbelievable. The other thing about that is, and it's hazy as hell, but it's like, the other thing about that is like, when we go back to ingredient costs and stuff, it's like, if your IPA finishes at 1.8 Plato instead of 3.8 Plato, you're using less grain to get your 6.5% or your 6.2% or whatever. And it's like all those bags of barley add up, right? So it's like, I think it's cool that a hazy IPA can have like kind of like a spectrum, and that can all be a little bit different, because like regardless of whatever hater wants to say that like it's like hazy IPAs are shit beers. It's a thing. It's not gonna go away, and there's gonna be all kinds of iterations of it, which is awesome, because at the end of the day, that's another thing about like gaining new customers. Like hazy IPAs gained craft beer a shit ton of customers. If you're gonna tell me that hazy IPAs were like you know, got less customers than the 90 IBU West Coast IPAs that got me into craft beer, like, you're insane, because it's like these things taste like oranges. It is a gateway. Like hazies are our gateway beers into something different, right? So it's like not a difficult drink to drink. It might be difficult for some people, like get over the look of it, and then they will fall in love with it when they taste it. But it's like, yeah, it's cool that I think it's around to stay, and I think that like the variety of different hazy IPAs is growing and is really sweet. So,
yeah,
it's kind of like just quick, the diversity of customers, right? Like thinking about that too, what we talked about earlier. It's like we sort of intentionally have a few different sort of base recipes for IPAs now that are quite different. We're going to change them and evolve them. We started with just like super juicy, sugary IPAs, and now we're kind of like, you know, and one of them was based off of the collab that we did actually called Closed Loop a few years ago. A couple of years ago. We really liked that. It turned out a bit drier. It was still 7.5% or something, but it didn't pour super thick, but it was really flavorful. And so that kind of got thinking, well, not everyone, just to your point, not everyone wants the exact same beer, even in an IPA. So let's like try to sketch out a few different sort of base templates to start with, and then you can evolve each of them. Just like a pale ale that, you know, we've done the same thing, kind of reducing our dry hop in a pale ale. Not the one that I sent you guys, but we have another one out right now. And for many people, it's their favorite beer. 5.5%. It's hazy, but it's just crushable.
Yeah.
See, that's money.
For a while, it was just the more hops, the better. And then we all realized, I mean, even there's even like, you know, there's studies done. It's like to a certain point, it adds nothing, and it actually adds like tea-like flavors instead of tropical fruit and citrus flavors. Like it's like there's a threshold for those like bright fruit flavors, and once you pass that threshold, it just starts to taste like tea, and it starts to taste like dank. It doesn't matter what it is.
Like or other ones too that'll start tasting like onions and garlic.
Yeah. That's just shitty Galaxy, but
apparently Galaxy's back at it now.
Yeah,
or Mosaic that's kind of gone off too.
The Andrew, you're right. The Aussie hops, honestly, like they were all the tits like 2018, and now it's like I have to admit the Kiwi hops. Nothing is like the greatest hop is Peacherine right now. I don't think. There's a beer that's even mid that's made with Peacherine. You could have the shittest base in the world, and Peacherine will fucking like Nate. We always say
code hop,
the cheat code. Oh, you know that
exactly.
The catch. It's obscene, but yeah, there is a nice breadth of hazy IPAs, and you're 100% right, guys. That is probably one of the biggest gateway beers. And speaking of gateway beers, one thing I want to tap into was the sort of difference between the two primary craft beer models, and maybe it's a little different in the States, but here in Canada, there's kind of like, it's like maybe like, I don't know if you call it like a tap room model, or like the boutique craft brewery. Where
the boutique is kind of
better word, right?
Is probably kind of an ideal way to put it.
Where to get the product, you need to go there. Part of the experience is the experience. Like you need to be there. You might be able to get their beers from some places, but really you got to go there, versus a more growth oriented brewery, which we've seen here in Ontario over the last few years, at least during the pandemic. A lot of breweries, say like someone like Bellwoods, like I would never have pictured them to be an LCBO brewery, excuse me, at the peak of their hype, where they're, you know, getting lineups every week for their drops. And then now they're at LCBOs all across the province. Every time I go to Buffalo, their shit's in all the stores I go to, even if it's just the non-alcs. It's very impressive. I don't know if you guys could speak to that at all, as far as like different approaches. I know both of your breweries, so, you know, I know Fine Balance currently doesn't have, please correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, a presence in the LCBO, whereas Town has multiple SKUs in there. I'd be curious just to hear both of you guys sort of perspective on that, because it feels like, once again, not that you're both not a boutique craft brewery, but it feels like obviously like Town has sort of leaned into like, all right, we're going to put a few select SKUs in the LCBO, which has always been a awareness play, from what I understand, which completely makes sense that you can go in there, you can capture some of the gateway, which was the little fun segue here, folks. And then hopefully translate that into a tap room visit to them. They can get some one-offs and really experience the vibe and the draft and all that sort of stuff. So just like curious to everything you guys are thinking here.
Yeah, I might just to start. I would say that like this question for me kicked off maybe a year or two ago, and I met with Jeff Town. He very kindly sat down and talked to me about the LCBO and different things and distribution. And it's just been an eternal struggle. Like we were ready to submit a beer to the LCBO, had it all done, and then just, I don't know, for whatever reason, couldn't do it at the last minute. I mean, I couldn't do it at the last minute. Maybe should have. Because of this question, like at some point, I feel like right now we are more of a boutique, which means that we self-distribute basically everything, right? We use some services, but the service options in Ontario, especially where we are, pretty limited. We want people to be coming to our door to buy beer. So I don't know I should know what percentage of beer we sell at the front, but probably, I'm sure it's around 70% or something. Like it's got to be.
I only laugh because I say the same thing all the time. I'm like, I should know these numbers.
I should know, yeah.
I feel like
it's complicated.
As soon as I'm done figuring out what I need to figure out, they just they're gone.
But for surviving in the short term, like as a new business in a really kind of rough climate, say economic climate, like Jeff was talking about earlier, post-COVID and everything, it's like, well, that's a way to survive. Like before we even opened, I thought, okay, the tap room will be our lifeline, for the first little while. And then that kind of went out the window. Luckily, I think we got lucky to be able to sell to places, bottle shops and whatever. It's not, it's a fair amount of luck, I think, involved in that. And so I like the boutique model, but I think for a craft brewery to be really successful, it has to scale at some point. And so what does that scaling look like? And is the LCBO the best route is a tough question. Is it about hiring a sales force? Like we have breweries locally that have a lot of salespeople, and one of them sold recently because they went bankrupt and were millions of dollars in debt. It's like that model wasn't working for them. So in this moment of reimagining, like if places are struggling, I feel like we need to make decisions that are counter to the old decisions in some way, or at least going down a new path with respect to sales, distribution, everything. But there are no easy answers right now for me. So I guess I'd say we're happy to be a boutique for a while, but our equipment costs a lot of money, like when everything costs so much in the startup, it's like, it's hard to see where things are going to change unless the market and the economic climate gets better, and all of a sudden, like we're charging the same amount for a keg as Alexander Keith's is or whatever, and we're selling lots of kegs around Kingston. But so I don't know. That's not a great answer, but it's just a bit of a struggle, I'd say, like between these two poles. And we want to be a bigger brewery, so I take Jeff's point, like, unless your position has changed, Jeff, I'd be interested to know. But like getting to the LCBO, you're going to make more beer. You're going to have more staff. You're going to have, it just helps you grow as a company. You're going to have a bigger impact. And people will have more structured roles within it, which is a whole other kind of thing. But
I definitely agree. Like you had mentioned with I think you said internal struggle.
Internal struggle. Yeah.
And that's 100%, 100% what it's like for us. I mean, like all the time, almost every management meeting that we have, we're like, who are we? What do we do? And why? Because we struggle so much with those things. We're like, we always set out, like when we opened Town Brewery, we're like, okay, we want to be a business that is a part of the community. We want to be something that drives Whitby in a positive way. But at the end of the day, we use the word business because we want to start a successful business. Like we always kind of had that from the get-go. We want to make great products. We want to make a positive difference in our community. But at the end of the day, we want to grow as a company. So we kind of started with that. And I think that it's,
oh, that was it. I thought I pressed something. I like that.
We got a phone call. I think it was a Proctor. It's gone. What was I saying? So yeah, so like we always had this like growth mindset. Like we want to grow, and we just like, but we at the end of the day, like we don't want to make products that we're not super proud of. So like I when you say internal struggle, it's like every day we're thinking, should we do this? Should we not do this? Should we do this? Should we not do this? Every day we're continuing to think like, should we do this one thing or should we not do that one thing? So it's like, I don't think that there's ever, I think as business owners, we have so much on the line at the end of the day that it's like, you don't want to make the wrong decision. And because of that, and because of, you know, you look at your staff and you're like, these people rely on this business for their livelihood. Yeah. You know, their families rely on this business for their livelihood. So these decisions that you make have so much impact. And I'm not trying to like, you know, I'm not trying to like big up like what we're doing, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, like if you fuck up, then you're not just fucking yourself up. Like you might be, you know, you might have to fire somebody or lay somebody off or whatever if you make the wrong decision. So it's like, we've always had this internal struggle of like, what do we do? Are we doing the right thing? I guess is probably what it comes down to. And it's like, we always wanted to grow. And so to grow, like we felt like we hit a max at what we could do in our tap room. And then we're like, okay, what is our next thing? And so we really attacked licensees and we really tried to get it into licensees. And it's like, the hardest thing about it all is that you gotta, it's like, you have to take a leap of faith. Cause it's like, when we're like, okay, we need a full-time sales guy. It's like, we don't right now. We're like, not even close to needing a full-time sales guy right now. But like, can we afford 3 months to let that sales guy get to the point where we need a sales guy? Or, you know, we don't need a second van, but can we afford 3 months of lease payments to allow our salesperson to try and fill that van? So it's like all of these like small kind of like leaps of faith. And with the LCBO in particular, we're like, that for us, we went in with Square Wheels like early. Like I think we were in with Square Wheels like after year 1, and we're like, okay, let's just get this beer out there. And for us, it was like, that was an internal struggle. What beer do we put in? Do we do this beer? Do we do that beer? And we're like, well, what did like, and it came down to, again, it sounds corny, but like, what do we do? Why? And it's like, we love hazy IPAs, and we like, this is the beer that we're probably the most proud of. So like, if we're going to lead into the LCBO with something, like this is what we want to be known for. So it's like, that beer is the one that we've kind of always pushed. But yeah, it's just like, we've always had this like growth mindset of like, we want to grow and we want to get to the point where we can do the things that we wanted. Like we want to be able to take chances. And it's really hard to take chances when like literally every decision means so much. Like I feel like it's still the case, but it's like, if we make a decision now that like might not be the right one, I think it has a little bit less of an impact, because we have grown to a point where we're I mean, we're not big by any stretch of the word, but it's like, we do have like 3 SKUs in the LCBO. We have like a pretty significant licensee following. And we're just like, we just want to get I think it's like, we got to a point where like, we feel as though our beer should be in everyone's hands. And there was luck, like a shit ton of luck that allowed us to be like, yeah, okay, like let's let a sales guy try for 3 months, or let's try this, or because like that's a luxury, right? Like you don't always have that luxury to be like, okay, we're gonna try this and we can try it for X amount of time, and if it doesn't work, then you know we'll still be able to turn the lights on. But it's like, it's just taking that. It's like, even with total tangent, but like tangent up. At the OCBs last year, we did a thing on food and like tap rooms. And well, it was specifically tap rooms, and the hour session turned into a 45-minute talk about food in your tap room. Because not everyone, but everyone who was asking questions anyways wants to do it. But at the end of the day, it's like, how do you do it? Like, how do you incorporate food into your tap room when, like, the first 6 months we did food in our tap room, we had one single food guy. And when he called in sick, we didn't have food that day. When he had a wedding to go to on a Saturday, we didn't have food on the Saturday. Or Caitlin, our taproom manager, who was on the last pod, was slinging pizzas in the taproom. So it's like, it's really difficult to do that. And it's like, you have to look, okay, what can we do? What can we expect to do? And then like, can we afford to invest in this thing? Because it's like, it takes significant investment to do any of these things, to do food, to go to the LCBO, to do all of that. But the way that we just saw it is like, okay, if we hit X volume, or we can expand the brand by this much, then, you know, labels become cheaper, cans become cheaper. Yeah. It's like, and it's just like you factoring in all those things, but it's like a really big commitment, and it's like, it's not easy. And we've, like I said, we've had a lot of luck. We've had phenomenal people. Like we've gotten, I don't know if it's luck or what, but I don't mean luck in like the fact that the people we chose to do their jobs got lucky in doing them, but like, I think it's lucky in that we chose the people to do the jobs that we chose. And it's like, we got the right people to start our sales that could grow it. We got the right people to do this. Timing wise, it kind of just all seemed to work out. And it's yeah, like like I said, I mean, I'm rambling here, but I mean, at the end of the day, like we've always just said, we want to be a business that has an impact, but at the end of the day, a business, and like, you know, to be able to do things that we really like aspire to do, we need to sell more beer. And it's like, we've always just thought that, but then I feel lucky because you know, we've been around for almost 7 years now. And it's like, there was a time where we can invest in these things, and there were, you know, like I said, that the market was on a steady rise. So I think it was a lot less of a risk to invest in these things. But when you're talking about the industry being in a slump, well, it's a lot fucking harder to be like, we're going to hire a sales guy who's just automatically going to sell more beer in a market that's on the down. So it's like, we got lucky in that we invested in those things while, you know, things were on the up and up. And then we got to a point where it's like, okay, that risk paid off, so we can, you know, on to the next one. And now I think we're at a level now where small mistakes can be made and corrected, but like, you know, they don't feel as big of a risk. Like I like Andrew, you guys have been around for 3 years. Like at the 3-year mark, we were doing things that were big risks. But at the end of the day, the landscape of the market was not as, I guess, unknown. Yeah, as it is right now. So it was like, you know, it's really tough. And it's like, yeah, it's like a lot of breweries right now are making a really smart choice of focusing in on what it is that they do. Yeah. And whether that's, you know, driving people into the tap room. I mean, tap rooms have been huge. I mean, like at the OCB conference last year, all the talk was about tap rooms. Everyone's talking about tap rooms right now. How do I bring more people to my space? And that's like, we haven't lost focus on that. We still have people who are like, we need to focus all of our energy on getting people into our space, because literally, like, I don't care if you know, we're selling square wheels for $4.25 tax in at the LCBO, but we're also selling it for $4.25 tax in heaven.
Because you have to, right?
Well, yeah, because you have to, but it's a lot more profitable when people are coming into the tap room to buy it, because like when we first started, it was like your bottleneck, like the hardest thing like making beer is easy. It's putting it in the package that's hard. And now it's like, no, packaging's one thing, but getting it to people is the next thing. So it's like distribution, and distribution is fucked. There's distribution companies shutting down like left, right, and center. There's breweries doing it. We're doing small distribution for other like Durham breweries. We're like, man, we want to go to Toronto, but like we just don't have enough to fill a van. Well, right. You know, throw your kegs in our van. We'll deliver it for you, and we'll figure it out. So like distribution's so difficult right now, and so like unknown. People are committing to these companies that are going to do, you know, cold storage and distribution for them, and then all of a sudden they're getting emails that say, you know, we're shutting down, and our last day is next Friday. So it's like, it's really, really difficult. I feel super lucky that we got to the point where we're kind of at, where we have a little bit of like, I guess just like less risk in that department. But yeah, I don't think there's I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way. I think that like the way that we're currently doing it is working for us, but I know that like I feel like it's in a kind of a cool way. It's like it's going back to where local breweries are local, and that's like your town brewery, like not, you know, you like the brewery that's in your town. It's like people are supporting that, and they're getting behind that, and yeah, I just think like it's a very, very interesting landscape. It's a very interesting like time, and I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do literally anything. I think that like as long as you're putting all of your effort and all of your like collective creativity and smarts into like doing what you're doing, then you can make it work. And that's kind of, I don't know, I think like the best part about it.
Yeah. I think that's pretty well said. Yeah. I'm still conservative for now, but I really like starting with, you know, your basic values or whatever. We have our values too, but if one of your values is to grow, you know, then that will help help you make some of those decisions.
Yeah. And it's not, and that doesn't mean that's not the way to do it. That's just our way to do it. And it's as I just like, there's so many, and there's so many breweries out there just like don't even know what their purpose is, don't even know what they're doing or why they're doing it. And it's like I truly honestly believe that if you know what you're doing and why, and you like feel it in your bones and you feel it in your heart, and you can put your all into it, then you can make it work. There's breweries that are opening up right now that are making some of the best beer I've ever tasted, and they're solely focused on selling that beer out of their taps and in cans, and they have literally no goals to go beyond that. And you go there sometimes and I'm like, man, these guys have 4 people working here across the board, and I'm like, this is the dream.
That's us, man.
No, but that's what I mean. And it's like there's no right or wrong. It's just like, and I think sometimes, you know, the grass is always greener. You're looking to what other people are doing, and you're looking at people's Instagram and thinking that's reality, and you're like, oh, look at how good they're doing. And it's like, well, are they, like, is anybody? But it's like, I think like as long as you find what works for you, and like at the end of the day, like it hasn't changed from like product quality. Like if you're making good quality product and you're marketing it in a good way and getting it into people's hands, like I think it's going to work. So I don't know. I think just everyone can find their way, which is kind of cool. But yeah,
I think that's really insightful that like there truly is no one right way to do it. But even as you're describing it there with because like we've seen it all the time too with some breweries that are kind of their focus is on the beer that they're brewing right now and the beer that they're releasing this week, and whatnot. And it's kind of that's the single focus, like week to week, and it makes me stressed out for them because like it doesn't feel sustainable. It feels like a recipe for burnout, because like if you kind of have to keep on going into that pattern week after week after week after week. But like, you know, I mean there's not even anything to say that they're necessarily going to do that for 3 years before they have a heart attack from stress. But, and you know, maybe their business will evolve and and their strategies will change. But it's interesting to look at the different approaches from different scale and different size and different time in the industry to kind of see what kind of different strategies work for different breweries.
Totally.
Yeah. And I am encouraged. I said it sort of towards the beginning of our conversation, but about like the local market. I think Jeff kind of hinted at this as well, but we could do well locally. That's amazing. And it's coming along. It just takes time, but I've been really, energized by it in the last sort of 6 months. You know, there's a few places we have 2 taps now. It's like, we actually have 2 taps. I never would have imagined that was possible, like, you know, 2 years ago.
you can go there and choose which beer you have.
Like that's cool.
This one I can actually choose. I can have two different beers.
It's amazing, right? So, but though that sort of progress, it's just that it's slow and steady, and it was non-existent for a while, at least in our existence as a company. So, I think we're definitely still in that kind of like boutique, smaller thing, and that extension of that is focusing first on local.
Yeah,
everything.
We would do tastings. Like we'll do a tasting in Whitby, where we're just handing out 5 ounce samples to anyone who's in the bar. And they're like, oh, that's pretty good. What's the brewery? Town Brewery. It's like, oh, where are you guys? And we're like, we're literally 500 meters down the road. They're like, oh, never been there. And that's like 8 out of 10 people, which is
Jesus.
At the same time, embarrassing. It's like super, like you're like, oh my God, there's like so much opportunity here, right? It's like, yeah, like maybe they should know about us, but they don't. And that's encouraging in the fact that like there's so many untapped people out there who it's like, there really is like there's a lot of people that you can reach.
Yeah, it's incredible. May I suggest a bathroom break and then we'll come back and we wrap up on the last beer?
I would love that.
Good? Okay, I figured as much. We'll be back in a second. All righty. We are back.
And we're back.
That was super. That was a really, really insightful part because I think that was one of the main things we really wanted to touch on tonight was kind of that like growth LCBO vibe versus the boutique come to us vibe and everything in between. So I feel like you guys really painted the picture of the various like options, I guess you'd call it, that breweries can sort of take. And obviously that's just two of many. There's, there's different other approaches that the people can do, but this is really cool to hear both of your like organic
the brew pub, I guess, is one that's just sort of forgotten now. The traditional brew pub.
That's a good point. Like no packaging, just taps.
Yeah, just like a pub,
That's like
make some beer in a small system in the back.
I joke around that when town fails, I'm just going to open a brew pub and I'm just going to make small batches of beer in a little barn somewhere. And it's just
fun.
To go off into the sunset. I think a little bit of that too has to do with like licensing laws and stuff like that. Cause like I know that a brew pub, like you should brew there, but just even like the pub idea, you know what I mean? Like where you can just have an outlet where you can have a restaurant and you can sell all fine balanced beer and you don't have to brew on site. I know that's more possible, I think, in the States. But I mean, man, like if that was God damn it, that would be nice.
It sounds like a pretty cool life.
Yeah.
Like, it's there's lots of different ways, but like you said, Craig, there's a million different ways to do it. Yeah. And like, there's a million different ways to be successful. There's no right point.
Yeah. You're 100%.
The model, like the model that I always had in mind was a more of an American model where you have multiple locations, right? Look at other half or whatever, they're all over.
Yeah, like 7.
And so that seems great. It's harder to do in Ontario because right now you have to have a production
in every place.
Your second location. I think you're only allowed 2. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, if you know. But so it'd be interesting to see what happens in 2026 because that would be part of our plan, like because that's still staying kind of boutique, right? Whether it's downtown Kingston or if it's in Toronto or wherever, to have something that represents our brand really well, that's accessible, that provides high customer experience and all that, and that's a way to move a lot of our beer. Like that sounds great. You don't have to build a full production facility.
If you brew there, it can happen, but it's like you run into issues with if you're just looking to get a liquor license and you're trying to just sell your own beer. If you produce beer there and you can sell beer to go, I mean, as you know, Andrew, like, having if you had a restaurant where you could sell your own beer, that's one thing. But if people can't take beer to go, like that's a whole, like it puts a big dent into things. Right. So, that it's funny. Like, well, that was one of the reasons, not one of the reasons, but like when we actually came up with the name Town, we're like, oh, that's cool. Blah, blah, blah. We like tossed around a couple different ideas. And then we're like, well, if it's Town, we can just like be in every town in Ontario. We'll just take over the world. And that's not happening. But
give it time.
it's but I honestly I don't think it would be unheard of for more breweries to start looking at that. And going back to like the distribution point, is like distribution's so shit, right? It's like so hard. Like if we have a brewery in Whitby, if we were to have like a small brewery in Guelph or Hamilton or somewhere on the west side of Toronto, it's like, oh, could you produce all of your licensee beer there for west of Toronto and distribute that there, and then all of your cans come in from the production brewery or whatever that's in Whitby, and then you can sell beer. Like, again, a million different ways to do it, but like, you know, as we've alluded to, I mean, we talked about home prices, but industrial and commercial real estate prices
that's a whole other game.
It's like, you know, none of us have any money, so investing more into it is difficult.
Yeah.
How much can I get for zero?
How much can you get for nothing? One thing I noticed, now I'm here, like when Montreal, was going to Vermont all the time. In Vermont, it's pretty few and far between to see multiple locations, but now I'm in Buffalo once a month, and it's crazy. And then obviously I've been in the States the last, I don't know, since we moved here, I guess the last couple of years, a lot more than before. And seeing the culture of that multiple tap room thing, and I guess it's the more, maybe slightly more flexible laws. Like there's Mortalis and Frequentum in Rochester or surrounds both have Buffalo tap rooms. You mentioned other half Andrews, so there's the other in Buffalo. There's Finger Lakes, and then there's Philly, DC, New York, all that shit. So like, there's so many breweries that have, and we were just at, what was it called, Resurgence a couple weeks ago, and they're from Rochester, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So like, there's so many breweries that are doing that I'm like, we used to always drive to Rochester, which is an extra like hour and a half. I'm like, we have the fucking Nexus now. We just 48 minutes or whatever it is to get to the bridge, and they don't ask you any questions. You're over in 45 seconds, and you're like, fucking boom. I'm like, oh, now I'm here. Then you can cruise around, go to Trader Joe's and do all the stuff. And I'm just like, I find it so like greatest place on earth. I just find it. It's
that everything bagel spice.
Hey,
you got to get that everything bagel spice,
bro. I'm looking at. I have we call it the store, and basically I've got there's like 30 spices all arranged, and how many of each there are. Not to mention the ones in use upstairs. We go once a month and drop obscene money to make sure we're TJ'd the fuck up. But the whole experience, though, of just knowing that there's these different tap rooms, I'm just like, oh, this is so fantastic. One, for as a drinker and as a customer, knowing that I don't have to drive that additional hour and a half to Rochester and stuff, which I do love Rochester as well, but I'm discovering Buffalo recently, and I'm very much enjoying it. But like, for the business, like, isn't that dope that they can, like, there's more Canadians guaranteed that are going to Buffalo than are going to Rochester, just off the fact of convenience. So if you're a brewery and you could open a Buffalo tap room, then you're just like, I'm always looking, I'm trying to learn. I'm going in blind. I've got a mate who works for Mortalis, so he tells me what's good or whatever, so I'm like following his advice. But for the most part, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. He tells me, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I just think it's one thing that is very, like you boys were just describing the Canadian sort of rules and stuff like that. It's a little frustrating. I would imagine they might have a similar rule with regard to production at a secondary facility, because I don't think, maybe the Mortalis tap room didn't have tanks or anything, but maybe Frequentum didn't either, but definitely Resurgence did. We sat next to them. So it's just more like, I appreciate the capitalistic nature of the US, and I get a little frustrated when these laws that are from 100+ years ago are holding companies back in one of the toughest economic times of our individual lifetimes. That, like, you know, just fucking let people thrive and let them live, man. Like, it's not that serious. Prohibition was 100 years ago, dickhead. Like, for fuck's sake, let it go. It's not that serious. We're adults. Marijuana is legal. I order it online. I can't order beer online in Quebec, but I can order weed. It's on fucking guy delivers it to my door.
It's a bit crazy.
It's just like, it's so the illogicity, is that a word, of it is like infuriating, and that's from just like I'm just a guy. Like, I can only imagine it from you guys' perspective that it's got to be crazy.
And it's like, right now it's so tough because it's like, just again focusing on like what you have and making that work. I don't think there's too many. I mean, there might be some, but I don't know if there's too many who are looking to like drop a bunch of dough on something new. But I do think that just like we talked about with people who are being forced into think differently and forced into, you know, maybe think more creatively, that you might see some more of that, and the renewed kind of focus on the in-house customer experience and the in-house, just like bringing people into your tap room and stuff. That, you know, if there's a way to do it, people are going to find a way to do it. I mean, people found a way to create liquor stores and you know, across Ontario after COVID. So it's like there'll be people to do it and figure out a way. But I think that I don't know, you might see some creative things happen in the next little while.
I hope so.
I wonder about the convenience store too. Just like, why can't we open a convenience store in 2 years? You know?
I mean, do you know what though? Technically, you could, if you. I don't know if you can have it under the same like corporation.
Yeah, different business, sure, but like,
yeah,
we could
like,
open a convenience store.
You could call it Fine Balance Beers or something like that. Something Fine Balance Depanneur.
Like, I mean, basically exactly what Dominion City did with their corner store.
But they did it in the same building, no?
Yeah.
It is well. It's in. I mean, it's in the same building, but it's it's separate from from the actual brew house.
But say like that's actually a really good example. But say Durand here in Hamilton, which is my fave spot. Like that's a cafe that has a store. If either of you guys were to just rent a storefront, have a different corporation, and buy your own beers off yourself and only stock your own beers and probably use a slight variation of your own logo and name for the store, I don't foresee, from what I understand, the very little I understand, like that could technically work. I don't know what the rule. You probably need to get a bar license if you were to serve it. But as far as selling like bottled and canned products,
the problem there, from my perspective, would be the investment. Like it technically, it's such a gray area because it's like you could make it work and it could operate, but like technically, there's certain things you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to own a liquor license, like an actual liquor license for a bar, if you're a manufacturer of alcohol.
What if it's a separate company?
If it's a separate company, it doesn't matter as long as like it's like the invested interest or like the corporate structure. You can sign an affidavit that says that you won't sell, like you won't give a competitive advantage to the company that you also have ownership in, that manufacturer. So it gets it gets a little bit dodgy. I think the thing is like you could make it work, but then if like you really like tried to take advantage of it, they could shut you down. And then it's like, is that worth the investment that you just spent? Like, how much money are you going to put up to do this thing? You could do it where you own a bottle shop and you have a variety of different beers and this and that. But it's like, I just think it's like, you know, there's a factor of just like, you're scared to invest in something that, you know, you could just like be slapped with a shutdown notice or a fine or something. I don't know. It's like, risky. It's like, do I want to take on that risk when I'm already trying to like juggle all this other bullshit that I'm trying to deal with? Do I want to like, do I want to worry about all that? But there's like, you know, people are definitely like not bending rules, but like taking advantage of the opportunities that lie within the rules, I guess is a good way to put it. But it's like, how much do you want to invest in that? And yeah, I don't know. I think things will change. They're changing already. I mean, like, you know, laws have become a little bit more lax. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. I think that, if anything, it's going to get better for us. I don't think it'll get worse. I hope anyways. I sure shit don't hope. But yeah, that's it'll be interesting to see what happens, I guess.
For sure.
No, great point.
So,
Nate.
fellas, in the interest of just respecting your time and whatnot, we should probably be getting on to our last beer before we get towards wrapping things up, because I know we've still got things to talk about. But let's get that last beer.
So,
so Andrew, do you want to tell us about Wander?
Yeah, this is Shit, just spilled my computer. Double IPA.
That's the worst.
Double IPA with Rawaka Motueka, so New Zealand hops.
Okay.
I don't know. It seems like a lot of people are using Rawaka lately, and we have been as well. I don't know. I think we might have done this first last year, and we've done it a couple times since. And what I look for, what we look for really, is hops that'll help our IPAs stand out from the one that's next to it, even if it's ours, right? And distinct flavors that you can get from hops. Rawaka seems to be one of those ones that's performing really well when some other hops we've been disappointed with. Like we talked a bit about the Australian hops. We were having some issues with even like Nelson, like a year ago, it was a bit up and down. And so we're lucky that, and we are excited to try new beers and try new hops all the time. So I like that one a lot. And Motueka is one that we use periodically. That's, I think on its own is sometimes divisive. It's pretty kind of peppery and sweet, but yeah, this is a good one. It will be more, less dry than the other one, or the other ones you've had, I'm sure.
I love Motueka personally.
Motueka
I love Motueka as well. Yeah, I think it's great. It's also another like unique, it stands out. You can pick people if they know a little bit about hop, and if it's an all Motueka IPA, they can probably pick it out. Potentially.
Yeah.
I love New Zealand hops. I find them polarizing. Like
really?
even some of our brewers hate them.
Which ones?
I can't tell you which brewer. No, I'm kidding. It's like I think like New Zealand hops have like a vibe, which I fucking love. Like there's not many that I don't like really thoroughly enjoy. The best thing I think about New Zealand hops is that they can perform in any beer. Like New Zealand Pilsners are just as good as like a New Zealand double IPA. And I personally love them. I just love that, like, I don't know. It's just that it's like that thing. It just like stands out, I feel like.
Yeah.
Sorry?
They pack a punch. Like they.
Oh yeah, big time. I love it.
Just like blending in with the crowd.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
that beer looks beautiful.
Look at
which is why we've had some issues. Like it's been it was disappointing with Nelson for a while, which is in sort of our flagship IPA, and we're trying to figure out like what's going on. Try some different lots, and this year it's been better.
Yeah,
but because to me that's the best. That's my favorite hop. Nelson.
Yeah,
it's just like so good when it's good.
I think we're in for I mean, I'm not like a hop expert by any stretch of the word, but I think we're in for a good couple of years here, because I know that like a lot of the like more like money hops, like even the Citra, the Mosaic, the Simcoe are very like overstocked right now.
Yeah.
Because they've been overgrown for a long time. And I know that we can, for the first time in the 7 years that we've owned a brewery, we can find deals on Citra and deals on Mosaic and Simcoe and a lot of the like really money American hops. And they clearly know this, and they grow hops to the market, like to the demand. So if anything, I think it just means that they're going to grow less and
they're going to cut production,
focus more on the ones that they have, and hopefully that'll give us some really killer hops. Because like Andrew, the hops that were so hard to get or were so expensive are becoming easier to get, and the hops that no one wanted, like Crystal, German hops and Nova hops are like they're contracted and gone by half.
Well, they had a few. Yeah, there's a few tough growing seasons, I think, there, and then the supply was not great. So
and then all of a sudden, pilsners and lagers became the hype beers, and all the big breweries wanted to take them. So
it's interesting. The hop thing seems like a challenge, particularly in like everything you guys have described for the last couple of hours, like the sort of ecosystem of beer right now. It's like before you were just scrambling, and now it's like you said, there's a bit of like they've been overgrown. I heard like, what was a stat I read? I swear it was like the hop industry lost like $100 million like because of the overgrown stuff, and they just like they couldn't sell it. I don't know if they destroy it or whatever, but there's just hops dying and people contracting and wanting to get out of contracts. Whereas not too long ago, it feels like everyone was scrambling to get into contracts, and that, and you know, you could you're begging another brewery for a few pounds of fucking something.
There was points in time where by October, Citra was just gone. Wow. And so like, okay, well, what do we do for November, December here? Like, we're kind of fucked here. But it was, but yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. And like, those were things that I never anticipated, like getting into owning a brewery is like, I was like, oh, like we just tell them how much we need.
They deliver it.
And that's fine. Just like make it. It'll just be totally easy. I also think that like due to that, I know most of the brewery owners that I talk to anyways are like way over contracted on a lot of hops for like the last 2 years. Cause like, well, if I don't contract, you know, what I forecast making of Citra, like, you know, maybe I used 1,000 pounds last year, and you know, because I'm a ever optimist, I know that we're going to need 50% more than that next year, and if I don't contract it all, then I won't get it. So I do 1,500 pounds, and then all of a sudden I did the same 1,000 pounds as last year, and it's like that's all backlog. I mean, we have hops that we contracted last year that'll last us till the end of this year.
Yeah.
Damn.
And you can get it for half price on spot right now.
Well, that's the thing, right? So
So
that's
like,
why I mean hops haven't really increased in price for us in years, but I mean, well, I think one of the biggest things was the war in Ukraine was like a huge impact on our grain prices.
I heard Troy was saying.
Oh yes, like barley went up fucking like what 60% or something like that. Andrew, I don't remember the actual figure, but it was like it was mental.
It was crazy.
Wheat was insane because wheat. Ukraine was a big wheat producer.
Because of the bread basket of Europe.
The bread, yeah, exactly. So it was like, yeah, that was pretty wild, and that was pretty stressful for a while. And it was like trying to again like get more beer out of what the ingredients that we were buying, so that we didn't have to raise the prices, because at the same time people were strapped for cash and yada yada. So you know, ever ongoing battle. But it is a nice positive note to know that you can go online and get some Citra for on sale, right? Like, on sale, come on.
One fun thing on that, Nate and I just did a collab with Noah Beerism and Matt of Vox and Hops with Kanawaki in Quebec for their anniversary. And the idea we came up with was like all New Zealand hops, and he couldn't get most of them. Like we wanted Peacherine, we wanted Superdelic. In the end, he got like the Sub-Zero hop key from what was it?
From Freestyle. The
Freestyle stuff.
The Cohea Nelson, yeah.
That's what it was. But like, I think we had regular Nelson and something else, but
and we did have Superdelic, and Nectaron was the other
Nectaron, but we couldn't get Peacherine.
Nectaron's
fucking awesome, but we couldn't get. I guess the
Peacherine is what we couldn't get.
Yeah, and we wanted Peacherine because that's the cheat code hop, and if everything tastes like fucking,
you can't get Peacherine. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah. But it's like beforehand you couldn't get almost anything, and now there's like 2 or 3 hops that you maybe can't get, but like everything else you can just fucking get it on tap, which is a weird thing that I guess we could hope goes away, because when it's hard to get, that means the industry is on an uptick.
But there's always going to be something hard to get. Yeah, like they're always going to come up with new thing, and they got like these hop companies have so much goddamn money. It's like they're just going to market something that, you know, there's hidden hops out there that we just don't know about that are just as good as the hops that we're all like going fucking crazy on. But then until it has like a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign behind it, and then everyone wants it, it's like, yeah. But it's like there's always like I just feel like there's always something, and like a lot of them are flops. So, you know, like there's been all kinds of marketing campaigns around hops that were total shit and never kind of lasted or worked. But yeah, the one thing that's cool is that like there's such a surplus of hops that like that's where 702 came from. So 702 is like the liquid extract for the Whirlpool, and it's like zero bitterness, almost to a point where like we found that we have to put in hops with bitterness.
Yeah, we put some in. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's so flavorful. It's unbelievably good, but you're like, it's missing something. And we're like,
right,
striving for this 0 IBU, just juice. And then we finally get it handed to us on a silver platter. And we're like, fuck that.
That's so good. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like that whole project was led by just like YCH having way too much hops.
Yeah.
So they're like,
and
what the
Citra, you use Citra 702 as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Citra 702 is money. I mean, it's just like, that's like cheat code of anything.
Yeah.
But it's like those, like, these companies are not small companies. These companies are not dumb companies. Like, they're gonna find a way to figure it out, and they'll be fine. So like, we don't have to feel bad for them that they have too much hops.
Yeah.
They're making more money than we are. That's for sure. It's like, but it's cool because it's again going back to even like the breweries and like, okay, times are tough. Like, what are we gonna do? They're doing the same thing. We got a surplus of hops. What are you going to do with them? Oh, we'll make this liquid extract Whirlpool product that like blows people's minds.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's cool.
I never thought about this. I don't want to go too, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to go too into it, but like that hops don't make it without the multi-million-dollar marketing budget. I never considered that. I thought maybe naively that when people go over to Yakima in September or whatever, and they do the fucking rub and the hand selection, all that shit, that they would be introduced to any new products and then the breweries who, I guess a lot of hop products are primarily exciting to breweries who make really high tier haze. They would get amped about it. You'd see certain breweries use it, and then other breweries would see that, but and it would kind of trickle down. But
yeah,
budget.
Well, and I think that definitely happens. Like, but now we're seeing, I don't know how long it's been happening, but like they're coming out with hops that are just like numbered, right? Like HBC.
Yeah, they've been doing that forever. I think, isn't that just like in temporary when they're getting it to see if it picks up and then they name it?
Yeah, so they're like, those are the ones that they're like, okay, let's let the breweries tell us which one they like, and then when they tell us which one they like, then we'll name it, we'll put some money behind it, we'll market it, we'll do all that. I mean, like, I don't get me wrong, like Citra is the best hop in the world, in my opinion. It always will be, for good reason, not just
Idaho 7.
Not just because of the marketing budget behind it, because it's a tremendous hop, but just like breweries, like, it's great if you have the best beer in the world, but if no one knows about it, then does it matter? So it's like so yeah, I mean, it's like,
it's a good point.
Marketing helps everything. But it has to be good. It can't be shit. It's like they've been, marketing some specific Canadian hops for a very long time and trying to make it
Sasquatch.
No.
No.
And it just like, it's not good. So like, it's just not going to work. That's the thing. You can have great product that doesn't get marketed and no one ever knows about it, or you can have shit product that you market the shit out of, and then just everyone knows it's shit.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough to kind of find that balance, I guess. And that's probably, see what I did there? Unintentionally.
Oh, boom. Lovely.
By the way,
lovely.
I don't know if I really if we talked about how fire this beer is, but
oh my God, it's so fucking good. Like, look how quickly I'm drinking it, not even on purpose.
It's dude, this is spectacular.
The color's pretty nice, eh? I mean, it looks nice in the camera
it's
there.
Beautiful. Like,
it's
beautiful.
beautiful.
Milky. It's what kind of Jeff was talking about before with that milky haze. And this is a IPA that has exactly that. The body is crazy. It's like citrusy, a little bit dank. I feel like I'm getting that peach in there as well.
Yeah.
This
is it's so easy drinking. My God.
Yeah. I find this yeast that we used like produces a really nice body and a really good looking beer. Having said that, we're going to switch back over to Scarman Labs for our next round.
Whatever works.
Yeast is another struggle.
I mean, yeast is a whole other conversation from the hop side that we've been talking about.
Can I say?
Brett, please.
You have a topic, Craig. No, it's okay.
No. I think yours is more important because the topic.
No, mine was just like thinking about the ingredients. This is a bit of a tangent, but something like hops. So we have a local hop yard on Wolf Island that's just off off downtown Kingston, Lake Ontario there. And they make some really nice hops. I think they only grew 4 or 5, but they're all like traditional hops. Magnum is the one that they sell the most. They actually make Crystal, I think.
Oh yeah, come on.
Yeah, Japanese hop Kirin,
Jeff up.
which we use. We use Kirin in a couple beers. Well, a rice lager that we've done a couple times. The slightly awkward thing. Awkward might not be the right word, but we want to support local. And so we do buy hops from them, and we try to be transparent and talk to them. But the cost of producing ingredients in Canada is pretty high. So for whatever it is. And so it's tough to do that balance as well. Like when we're thinking about the cost of our beer for the customer and what it costs us to make. And these hops that are now available, like Citra or whatever, cheap, that aren't grown locally, that are really good hops that you could pick up. It's tough. Yeah. So we've devised our own strategy, which is to use Magnum as a bittering hop in most, like all of our IPAs. So we're supporting them in that way, but we're never going to be buying anything to use as a dry hop or whatever. Yeah. Because probably the Magnum that they sell us is more expensive than like the Nelson that we buy from wherever. You know, it's like
Gotcha. Interesting. I mean, look, it's definitely dope to be able to support local. I guess hops aren't too dissimilar to maybe grapes if you want to compare it, like the wine regions. Like there's a hop region, I guess, for a reason, and only certain, areas here in Canada there's very few and far between hop farms and what they can grow aside from patents, which I didn't realize. We did an episode with hop farmers in like 2018 and they were explaining about the patents. I was like, what the fuck? They were like, yo, if you did 10 years of research and development to make Citra, tell me you're gonna not let everyone grow that shit. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So I totally get that. And then for Canada, maybe probably aren't funded heavily to be able to do that R&D, to be able to come up with the next big tropical beautiful hop. And it's a complex thing, eh? Like it's really something that breweries want to, like, as much as you want to support local with grain, but if you're making a proper Czech style Pilsner, you'll probably import the Wyman stuff or whatever and like get actual like German or Czech malt, and it's the only way that makes sense, and so on and so forth. So it's like different levels of, I was explaining this to someone recently. I was like, why are wineries expected to grow their own grapes? And it's weird if they don't, but breweries don't grow their own barley or hops or whatever the fuck. And I was just like, well, if that was the way, then breweries would only be in certain regions in the world, just like wineries. It's more complicated than you think it is. I guess we're all like, you guys are in it, we're in it on the periphery, but like, well, like,
and like really in that, like that's why wineries are only in the like specific regions. Like there's very few, very few, almost no Quebec wineries, just because they don't have the climate for it.
Montérégie outside of Montreal, but even then they're like 45 minutes between. Right? I know, I didn't, but I didn't say none. I said very few. Like certainly not the same the same number as Ontario. You're right. I wasn't discounting what you're saying. What I was trying to add, though, when we did Montérégie, it's like 45 minutes between wineries, where here in Ontario it's like 3 minutes. So very different. So
and we've got wine growing regions in Ontario. Like we've got like everyone in Prince Edward County, and you've got everyone in in Niagara and all that. We've got regions for it here.
Yeah,
and it's also buying into like creating that region, right? Like okay, there's going to be a bunch here, and that's going to be good. And what's that going to do? Well, that's going to like force each producer to try and make better wine. That's going to force each producer to try and grow better grapes and put more care and more love into what they're doing. And it's like, it's not
the whole and there's a whole tourism angle behind it too.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about terroir of grapes, so I'm not like saying that they don't have it or whatever. But it's like it does take that full buy-in, right? Of like that entire region and there's just so many things.
From the government or from the people?
Sorry?
The buy-in.
Well, it's like buying in of like, okay, this is what we're going to do. There's going to be multiple producers in this area, and we're all going to, push. It's like craft beer in general is like, the more breweries that we have, like you can create regions that are known for their breweries. But to do that, you can't have 7 dog shit breweries. You got to have breweries who are pushing each other and making better beer and competing and collaborating and like pushing things forward. And that's the only thing that's going to take people to be like, oh shit, you got to go to like Prince Edward County to check out all the breweries. Like there's like 7 there and they're all within a 10-minute drive and they're all making fire beers. Like it's like there's like a whole thing to that. Again, I don't know anything about wine, but to go to like even where you were saying, Andrew, with the hops, it's like it's such a balance because you want to support all of these like local producers, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, we can buy anything from anybody.
Yeah. It's
like, can we turn that into a product that somebody else will see the value in? It's not that you don't see the value in
that's it. That's
it's like your consumers see the value in their beer having local hops in it and are willing to pay. Like, I would guess it's going to like raise the price by like a quarter a can or 50 cents
or something. Yeah.
So it's like, and the toughest part is that we're like from a global scale, so close to like one of the greatest hop growing regions in the entire planet. Like we can get Citra flown in from Yakima Valley in a day. And it's like, do people want to pay for a beer with that or 50 cents more for a beer that like it's local hops? Yes. But like local has to be as good, right? Like at the end of the day, like it can't have to be better, I don't think, but it's got to be as good. And that's not saying anything about the like specific hop grower that you're talking about, because I've never experienced any of their.
Yeah, no, their hops are really good. And as I say, we use them like, you know, they don't grow hops that we would use for a dry hop. So
yeah,
it's not
right.
Well, we've used Kieran a couple times, but it's a super light dry hop.
Yeah, we're looking to do like a Canadian pale ale, and we want to like find some like, and that's the thing, like specific beer styles are going to work for. Totally. That's the other thing about wine regions, like, you know, it's not like, I don't know wines well enough to even give an example, but it's not like in Alsace they're making Burgundies, they're making Alsace. So because that's what they have there. So it's like you're not going to try and pull Citra from Wolf Island and make a hazy. And if hazies just seem to be very popular at the time, well, like I got to get the hops that are going to make the right product for that beer. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, it does. Unfortunately, beer isn't tied to terroir like wine is. Like we can actually like have stuff from all over the place. And it's like you mentioned, Jeff, like, you know, it's weird when you think of wine regions, because wine is based on the actual dirt and whether that dirt in the ground and the fucking longitude and latitude and the temperature and all that shit is actually conducive to growing quality grapes. And typically each wine region has a specialty. From what I've been to a bunch, you know, Tiff and I are pretty into it, but each place has their thing. With breweries, it's all about, it's a different concept. It's all about not what they can grow, but what they can do with what they can acquire. So any brewery can acquire the same shit. You could have one little area with, like you said, 7 breweries that all buy the same malts from the same people, the same hops from Yakima or Australia, New Zealand or whatever, and one of them's amazing and the rest of them suck. And it's all about the quality of the brewer. I imagine it's the actual individual behind it, being that you can make magic from the shittiest little setup. So it's not even about the setup as well. It's such a weird, strange little world that beer is, if you want to compare it to other of the similar things. Like, I guess it's probably somewhat similar to distilling, whereas they don't have to grow, you know, they can obviously purchase whatever they need as well. So it's all about the skill. And then it's also strangely, well, it's not actually strange if you think about it like wine, that if a bunch of really great breweries are close by, that creates an ecosystem as opposed to competition. It's
also, I think it's also a willingness to make superior products. Like, I think there are a lot of really great brewers that are stuck at really bad breweries because the people who are making the decisions on what products to buy and how much how many hops to use and which hops to use, that's like maybe the most frustrating part, because you're like, man, you kind of like some it's like, okay, like it's just whatever, it's just not working. But some are like, you can do better than this. We're like, you have all of the capabilities, but whether it's like, you know, the consumer expectation or whatever it is. It's just like, that's the saddest part, is like some people are just choosing to make shitty beer. As bad as that sounds, sorry.
Well, they don't know. I don't know if anyone's choosing it. I feel like they just think it's good, but
I think there are some people who are.
I think a lot of people are constrained by cost. Yeah, like,
can you explain
by what they're able to use? The
ingredients choosing too, but they've found a formula that's profitable.
Okay,
and they don't need to strive to make the best beer they possibly can make.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And I'm generally not talking about small breweries. I'm more talking about like mid-sized breweries or whatever. Like when it becomes,
that's fair, I guess.
When it becomes a decision of like, you know, should we use Citra in this beer anymore, or should we switch it to Cascade? Will our general customer base notice, and will we sell any less beer?
Yeah, like are they going to keep buying it because it's a hazy IPA with a slightly less expensive hop that we can kind of produce reliably year round, at a slightly cheaper cost, but like will it keep selling at the same volume? Yeah.
This is like a full 3-hour conversation.
Oh my god, yeah, and we're starting this at like 2.5 hours in.
I mean, there's a lot of hazy IPAs you can buy at the LCBO, right? That aren't hazy.
There sure are.
The people that are making the beer could potentially make it hazy if they know how, but they're probably just not allowed to.
Are they doing it?
And these are the ones that are able to sell at $3.75 a can in the LCBO.
Yeah,
I mean, good for them. But are they doing it? My guess is they don't really care about hazy IPAs.
Well, that's the point. That's the point.
They're just doing it as a commodity, and then
slapping the label hazy on it because it sells better.
Yeah.
So then, devil's advocate, and obviously, I'm not supporting that, but say if people are doing it and they introduce people, and say if you're a noob and you've been just drinking whatever macro lagers or slight craft lagers, and then you jump into one of these, like, you know, less than mid, and when I say mid, like quality as opposed to mid size, like fucking hazy IPAs, if they like that, do you think that could get people to, oh, I'm in the LCBO, I see square wheels. What's that about? I see outside jokes. Or then like they're cruising through Kingston, they like breweries. They're like, oh, fucking fine balance.
I would say it's definitely a benefit. It's
a net positive.
It's a net positive. I've never actually, to be honest with you, I've never actually thought about it that way. I've just hated.
I was trying not to be a hater for once.
No, it's good, because at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, there's a place for that, and that's. If that's gonna get anybody interested in craft beer in any way, shape, or form, then I think that's a net positive from my perspective.
Have
you ever thought of it that way?
I have not thought of it that way, but lately I've been thinking about macro beer as a net positive, which is really weird, because this thing about like young people not drinking beer, and I've met some young people recently who don't drink beer, and how are we going to connect and get these people into beer? So maybe it's good that whoever, Anheuser-Busch or whoever, is spending like billions of dollars, however much every year, on marketing and advertising just to make beer known.
Yeah.
You're right. They're marketing to the wrong people. Probably they're probably not marketing to like 18 to 25-year-olds, but I don't know. They're keeping beer relevant potentially by just, you know, if you turn on a sports, again, it's probably the wrong market, but they spend a lot of money on advertising, whether it's billboard.
It's I think it's still a market though. Like, you know, I'm a perfect example of someone who like drank Coors Light and watched hockey every night.
Drank Miller Lite in your driveway.
Well, that's the other thing, is like, it's actually maybe kind of cool that like High Life and PBR and Labatt 50 and those kind of beers are the ones that are like becoming like popular, rather than just like Bud and Canadian and Bud Light and stuff. It's like, point. I mean, it's not. I mean, I talked to a lot of brewers who are like, I literally had a conversation with another brewer at a club. I'm like, all right, this is a lame question, but desert island beer, like what?
No, we used to ask that every pod.
The rest of your life, and they looked me in the eyes and said Miller High Life, and I was like, all right, okay. Respect.
I drank it recently because of you, because we had the pod
yeah?
and you mentioned it, and I drank it, and I was like, not for me, not for me. But I wasn't furious at it, and I'm typically furious at macro beers. I was like, I wouldn't get it again, but I see what Jeff's talking about. If you are a noob to beer, it's inoffensive and very crushable and sweet and sticky. It's a little too much for me, but if that bridges the gap, then more power to it, I guess is what we're saying here, right?
And the way that they market those beers is, in my opinion, just a lot better than the way that, like, when I was growing up in my late teens and early 20s, they were marketing Coors Light and Canadian.
Right.
It was like, when I was growing up, it was like marketing Coors Light and Canadian is like, if you drink Coors Light, you're going to be surrounded with like 20 chicks and you're going to be partying all the time. Now it's like, if you drink High Life, you're a cowboy and you're cool. And it's like, okay, maybe that's a better way to, like, you know, get people into beer. I don't know.
Yeah, but we want people into beer. We want them to know about beer, right? Like, keep beer as a starting point and then move them along. And then maybe, like, they go from that to, you know, the 375 LCBO IPA, and then they pick up Town next time. So
exactly. Then they start to explore a little more. I'm thinking of the people that I know, and I feel like a lot of different people sort of come along that way, or like, you know, you're around us and whoever, like, you know, if the four of us have various friend groups who like would see us continually drinking, obviously you boys are a little different being that you're the owners of breweries, but you know, if you're just leading by example and drinking craft and people are like, oh, what's that weird fucking yellow milk you got there? I'm like, oh, take a sip, buddy. And you're like, oh shit, this tastes like guava and pineapple. I'm like, that's craft beer, my guy. I'm like, oh shit, what's that? And, you know, it can go then. I feel like, you know, New England IPAs are easily the most underrated. I've given that to some of Tiff's friends and like who are straight wine drinkers because they saw me drinking it. And I was like, try it. And they were like, lost their minds. Like, they couldn't believe that that's what it tastes like. Because in people's minds, IPA is bitter, malty, caramel, but like whatever the fuck the culture has done is really put something in people's minds about what craft beer is. And it's unfortunate because it's so much more than what people are. But, you know, if these hipster beers can get people in, I mean, like you said, like you guys said, whatever works, whatever gets people in the door, whatever gets them thinking about, oh, okay, I've drank enough 50 PBR, fucking whatever High Life. What's next? What else can I get into? Because that's how I did it too. Even in Australia, long before I did all this, I was like, I was experimenting with different stuff, not wildly, but a little bit. And I thought I was kind of wild. And then once I got here and started doing it more, I was like, oh, there's so much more. And, you know, you start to really dive in. The LCBO is actually a pretty cool place for a new beer person.
Totally.
The New England IPA is, I agree with you, a gateway. The other one, though, is the fruited sour. This is a proper, heavily fruited sour. We don't have a liquor, like we just have our manufacturing by the glass license, right? So we get people coming and asking for wine all the time that don't like beer, and we pour them a sample and like, I don't know. We sell a lot of fruited. That's one of our 2024 goals is to always have fruited sour. You know, so we do gelato sour series in the fridge all the time because it doesn't taste like traditional beer. And
totally.
There are friends of mine who are not beer drinkers at all. Who anytime are around at my place. If I've got some gelato sour around, like they'll be 100% into it.
That's that's awesome.
And the melted gelato was like such a cool idea to give like a different variety to that series, whereas like you know, regular fruited sours, and then like now this kind of more intensified version as well to just be like, here's a couple of different. I've had a brewery in Montreal told me that they didn't like, they've had people come in that didn't know because they're new to beer. They only thought a sour had to be a smoothie. Like they didn't know any different. Because you think about it, when all four of us got into beer, it was a different time. There's cats who were getting into beer in 2023 or whatever who think this isn't the only IPA there is. Pastry stouts are the only stouts, and that fucking you know,
never seen just like a straight up kettle sour.
Or
a Berliner Weiss or something.
Exactly. Or just a regular 5% oatmeal stout or something like that. You know, they know 11% fucking, you know, birthday cake and almonds or something, you know, which is my jam, but like they don't know. And that's it's like there's so many different types of drinkers now that it's like, you know, it's an interesting exercise to consider how can you get to as many of them as possible to show them what is available, you know, what this looks like.
I just think like, and I've said it, I'm gonna say it again. There's like, we just have to get more people drinking beer.
Yeah.
Like, it's, I have like until tonight thought like that's about the craft breweries doing it. But like what you said, Andrew, is like, yeah, like we have billions of dollars by macro breweries, like who are actively trying to get people to sell more beer. And if we think of it as a category thing, then yeah, is it a win that they're not drinking cocktails? Is it a win that they're not drinking wine? Like, yeah, at the end of the day, it is. At least they're staying in our category. And then that's one step closer to their openness to like come and see what the fuck we're up to and what we're doing. And yeah, I never thought of it that way. Man, I'm coming out of this feeling good now. Man, everything's great. We're fine. As long as Anheuser-Busch has their marketing budget, we're good.
They're doing the work for you. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Letting people know what's up. They get to like fucking domestic lagers. They're like, oh, there's a bankroll. Here's a quick one. Like, this is so much better. Like, once you taste the tasty Pilsner and you realize it can taste more than what the macro is, and it's like, and it tastes great. They already like that flavor, and it's just ramped up. It's like a bland craft singles to like a triple cream brie. That's what it is. Like, once you have your eyes open, bro. Like
comparison right there.
Hey,
that's the apples to apples comparison right there.
That, I'm trying to do it, and like even craft coffee, it's Folgers to third wave. Like, once you try good shit of anything, and I just think of my own journey, and I know I feel like I'm a bit of a late bloomer. I only got into all of this stuff. I'm from the place where third wave coffee originated, but I got into it in Montreal, and like you can't go back to I went to a new cafe today because Tiff had to go to Toronto, so I was like, I'm gonna go for a walk at this new cafe. I called them, one, to see if they had good oat milk, and two, to see what beans they had, because I'm not gonna take a fucking risk.
As someone who talks to Craig every single day, he is way more intense about coffee than he is about beer.
Way intense. Like, you can't way more intense. Like, once you have good stuff, bro, there's nothing that offends me more than shit coffee. Like, a shit beer is one thing, but a shit coffee, slap my mother in the face. You fucking prick. It's the worst. And like, put that to anything. Good wine, good beer, like good. What you have, like a gourmet like cheeseburger, if you want to break it down, or like gourmet pizza. Like here in Hamilton, we have Cowabunga, which just won the best pizza slice in the world, which we got recently, and we didn't realize how big the fucking pizzas were. I've been eating it for breakfast every day, and I'm fat as shit. I need to chill, but it's great. And if you compare that to Domino's, Domino's, but it's not the same. So like, once you get into something, I would really hope that people would want to explore their palates, because even when I was new to all of this, and I imagine the three of us all had the same thing, like, it's, I don't know.
Who are you leaving out of that there? You said three of us.
Four of us. I was looking at y'all, like the three of y'all. Sorry, four of us. I was leaving myself out, Nate. Thank you for correcting me. I'm done with the double IPA stage. Right? You know, whatever. You fucking try all this stuff, and I just feel like it's as human nature for somebody who's maybe curious about good things in life. And like, whilst it's a tough, I don't know, you can live one time, eat, drink good, bro. Like, fucking do yourself a favor. Don't treat yourself like shit. Go eat something good and try new things and test out different stuff. And I don't know, it gives me genuine joy to support local businesses, because I know every owner of the cafes that I go to. Now I meet them, I yap to them because I'm excited about it, and I know the brewery, or the brewery owners, because of the podcast. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we know the person who owns the butcher we go to, and the fish shop we go to, and all of that. It becomes this ecosystem that is just a pleasure to live around. So wouldn't we want that to thrive? And then, you know, the beer is a larger conversation. So I
think also, like, at the end of the day, we have to realize that there's going to be people who don't. There's going to be people who,
and that's okay, I guess,
and that's fine. There's going to be a significant portion of the population that just like doesn't. They're the same ones that go to Eastside Mario's on a nice night out. But like at the end of the day, we have to know that there's so many people that do feel that way and who will feel that way and who will be like affected and want to pursue it further. And like the vast majority of them have never tried our beer before or I've never tried a good beer before. And I think that's like the only thing that we can like, that will like let us sleep at night knowing is like, not everyone who's going to love craft beer has tried craft beer yet. Not everyone's going to love craft beer, but at the end of the day, it's like there are people like you, people like us, and like they're that like the light bulb hasn't been switched on yet, and like
and who only just need to try it that one time,
totally
to be converted.
Yeah. And like we have to go find them.
Yeah,
they're no longer coming to find us. Like we have to go find them. But if we do that and we're smart about it and we work at it and we like, you know, band together and don't give up this like collaborative nature of this like very unique business and very unique industry, then like there's light at the end of the tunnel for sure.
I love that. That's a great way to bring this home. Would you guys mind if we take a quick piss break and then we'll wrap it up? Because as my brother says, me back teeth are floating. We'll be back.
Man. That's a saying my dad uses. My God.
Really? Yeah. See, yeah. My brother's basically a 60-year-old Canadian guy. I love Shasta Phil. We'll be back in a second. Boom. All right.
And so, we're back.
We are indeed, gentlemen. This has been such a phenomenal discussion. It's been so cool getting both of your insights on all of these different things. Let's bring it home. I know one of the like there's a few things that we sort of were going to talk about that it's not that serious because I really feel like the topics that we drilled down on was so dope. But maybe if we sort of, you know, bring it home on like a final point, like if there's not trying to position you guys as like the ultimate all-knowing sort of thing, but from both of your individual experiences, if you have any like if there's a words of advice to any breweries, whether they've been around as long as you, less, longer, whatever it might be, if there's something that you felt that was the most valuable thing that you've learned in the past few years, that has maybe made a positive impact on the brewery, on the team, on the product, on the marketing, on the sales, whatever it might be, is there anything that comes to mind where you're like, oh man, like this is the one thing that if I could like drill into somebody, this is the one?
Yeah, I'll go first, and maybe steal a tiny bit of Jeff's thunder because he's kind of referred to this along the way. But it's finding, for me, it's like just find the energy to do new things. Like find the energy to like assess how things are going and try something new. It's hard to like sit down, get some sort of plan to do like a community brew, even though in the end, like it went off pretty well, but to just sit down and make that plan and actually execute it for a lot of people, I think is difficult because they're busy, because they're worn out, they're burnt out, whatever. But for us, that's been a huge thing. And it ends up you end up in all these different directions, whether it's like collaboration brews or working with restaurants or doing community outreach or having events in the tap room or partnering with new food trucks or whatever, but just like find the energy to try something. Because it's a business, it's hard. It requires hard work, but if you can't take a pause and think about something new to try, then you're going to be like in trouble, I think.
That's great advice, man. Seriously, particularly nowadays with so much going on, and it's easier to tread water or to move towards something that you've already done.
It's hard to tread water actually too, right? That's the thing. It's really hard to tread water. So it's even harder to like
keep doing what you're doing.
Like these guys going to the pump house every weekend. And I don't know if you still have to go and like set up or if it's a better situation, but not a lot of people are going to try that or do that because it's too much work. It's too hard, but turns out it's a pretty sweet thing.
Yeah.
That's really good advice.
You just got to be willing to try shit and like have enough confidence in yourself that like if it doesn't work, then you know if that doesn't work, it's still gonna work, right? And it's like I think that's what you're saying is like you just have to, you can't just sit and sit idly by while everything falls apart around you. It's like, well, if you're gonna you're just gonna sit there and bitch about how shitty things are and how tough it is, then maybe it's not for you. But like, you know, if things aren't going well, then you got to work at it, and you gotta try something. Like you can't just sit. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think like for us, the biggest thing is like it's a collective effort of like everybody. And it's like you have to listen to like everybody around you. You have to like, we've been so blessed with like such an incredible team. And I know, Andrew, like everybody who I've ever met at Fine Balance is like unbelievable. If it was left up to you and I to run a business and make every decision that we move forward with, we'd both be in a lot of trouble. So it's like, listen to people. We talk about like the different types of customers that we have, and the different types of markets that we're trying to penetrate, and the new types of people that we're trying to get in. And it's like, I don't know who all of those are. Like, I don't relate to all of those people. So it's like really listening to everyone who works for the brewery, who we've trusted. I mean, we trust these people enough to like pay them money to do their job. So they're obviously the right person for some reason. So listening to people's opinions and listening to, you know, not being like, so you obviously have to be like very focused and very like, okay, these are the things that we need to get done, and these are the things that we've got to do. But at the end of the day, it's like, what do you guys think? Like, what do you guys think that we should try? And what are some things that like I'm not thinking about or whatever, and just like really figuring out, not, you know, who I think that Town Brewery is, but like who Town Brewery thinks Town Brewery is, and then really having a reason for doing what you do. Because like I think like I've said before, like I think every brewery who like truly believes in what they're doing will and can find success in one way, shape, or form. Yeah, it's going to be different to everybody. But like, if you don't know what the fuck you're doing and you don't know why you're in this business, I say this all the time. It's the worst business to be in if you don't truly love it. And if you don't know why you're doing it, then I think it's impossible to love it. So it's like, yeah, just like, and it's like, it's a bigger thing that it's at the same time as it's a bigger thing than you think it is, it's also a smaller thing than you think it is. We often think that like everybody cares about us, and literally at the end of the day, like a very slim portion of the population cares what we're doing. But the people who do care about what we're doing, like, care a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, just making sure that you're doing things for, I was going to say the right reason, but like the right reason to you, and making sure that, yeah, like even if it's the shittiest day ever, at least you're like fighting for something that you care about, and like the people that work with you also care about. And that's like super important.
Bars. Boys, no, this is so valuable. Like this is great advice. I couldn't agree more with both of you on this one. Like just thank you both, man, for like, you know, taking the time to hang out together. Like we said, I don't know if we said this on air or off air, but like you guys were just going back and forth the whole time, and it was so cool that me and Nate could kind of just kick back and just listen to you guys just drop gems. And we really appreciate you guys coming through and dropping this. I'm so excited about this season, because now we've got like this second episode, and both of your taproom managers just killed it and echoed exactly that, like that you just said, Jeff, that like the team, both of your teams really care, and both of those women really give a fuck about the experience of the customer, and they really represent your brands truly well. And I think it's like, I imagine you guys are really proud and just really happy to have them as a part of your team. And you know, having you guys on together now, obviously you've both been on many times each, and it's just cool. We just really appreciate you guys sharing your knowledge and stuff, because there's so much stuff that you've said tonight. I think you probably don't even realize how many gems you dropped tonight that are actionable, that breweries could listen to and just be like, we could try this week type of thing. And that's what we strive to do with like high season when we do our stuff. We try to give social media stuff that people can do now, as opposed to these like little fluffy, wanky things. You guys drop like real shit that people can do, man. And like, I love it. This gets me amped as hell. You guys are two of our favorite breweries, like no bias, but two of our favorite in Ontario. We circle jerk you both all the time, happily, aggressively.
Legit, like both been on been on our top 10 list.
Every year.
I think the last 3 years, which has been like and no exaggeration.
Yeah, and it's not going anywhere. So not only are your products exceptional, A1, and some stuff that we both proactively want to drink as much as possible, but you're just great cats, great human beings, and just great businesses that I love visiting whenever we get the chance. So thank you both for taking the time to come on and just share this, share the information that you guys have learned over the years, because it's I don't know, it's a tough fucking industry. And
absolutely, and this truly has been an absolute pleasure. And I don't think we've had an episode since I've been on that Craig and I have talked this little. And I mean that as a genuine compliment. You guys are just such easy talkers and have such important knowledge to share, and it just flowed so easily that we were able to just kick back, and we didn't even really need to guide the conversation that much. This was just so much good knowledge shared here, and shared in such an easy consumable way that was it was just it was just fun to be a part of.
Well, I mean, we appreciate what you guys are doing too, because we can make beer and we can tell people it's great, but at the end of the day, I think the phrase you coined a couple of times, Craig, was the ecosystem. The whole ecosystem of craft beer, it's not just breweries, right? It's everything. It's you guys. It's the podcast. It's the people posting on social media. It's the people showing up to the tap rooms. It's all a necessary thing to make craft beer and Ontario craft beer a thing that people actually give a shit about. And so yeah, I appreciate being asked to come on. And Andrew, you're a fucking beauty.
I love you, Jeff.
Yeah, no, it's great. I truly feel lucky to be part of what I'm doing.
Just to add on, the conversations are hard too, right? A lot of people don't want to talk about the industry and things that maybe need to change or aren't going great at the time, but it's important that you're using this platform to do that. So thank you, because it helps. It's nice that people can talk about it and learn about it, and that'll hopefully make people kind of understand to be more attached and more interested in craft beer as well. So yeah, thanks.
100%.
No, it's so dope. I think it's even cooler for us. Once again, this is a new thing that we're trying to do a little differently than we were doing it, and pairing people up that, preferably have some sort of a relationship, so that, like Nate said, we didn't even have to say too much, because you guys are bouncing off each other, because you already know a decent amount about each other's business, and that you could, if you know that the other person knows something, you can be like, oh yeah, and it's just made it. I think it's just really cool. I don't know. This just makes me ridiculously happy, and I appreciate you both immensely. It's amazing, and who knows, I don't even know why the fuck we make a beer podcast. The whole shit is weird to me, but it's been 9 years, and I guess people give somewhat of a shit. It's strange, but we out here, and if we can support in any way, the breweries that we care about, then we're here for it. And just grateful for you both, man, for sharing taking the time, sharing the info, hanging out. You've always got, anytime you ever guys want to come on, obviously we try and do it every year for you both, and yap a little bit. But gentlemen, let's bring this home, because I know it's past everyone's bedtime. Jeffrey is to my left here. Oh, down south, like Brady Bunch. What? I don't know why we never did that ever before. That's just, we should have thought of that. Brother, where can everyone find Town Brewery online, in person, all that good stuff?
Townbrewery.ca, at Town Brewery on Instagram. Find all our shit there. We'll lead you in the right direction from there.
Beautiful. And you got the pump house open until kind of fall, right?
Yeah, it's open now. It's hopping. Come down, have a beer. listen to the beautiful waves of Lake Ontario crash on the shores of Port Whitby.
It's if I gotta say, me and Tiff went. I feel like it was towards the end of last summer, like August, September. It was spectacular. It was way, way, way doper than I even thought. Like it already looked cool, but I didn't realize it was like literally like 3 meters from the water. It was this old cool building with all these beautiful lights, and it was a vibe. It was very, very cool. And the brewery's like 2 minutes down the street as well. So
yeah, we're gonna do something dope there this year for some breweries, so it'll be good.
Fuck yes, love that. Andrew, you legend. Where can everyone find Balance online in person?
Yeah, finebalancebrewing.ca or at finebalancebrewing on Instagram. And Kingston, we're close to the highway.
Right off
Innovation Drive off Highway 15. We love it when people stop and say hello.
And you can find a lot of your stuff. I know Durand carries your stuff regularly.
Yeah.
A lot of
some bottle shops.
For both of you guys, actually. You definitely check for that. It's a beautiful thing.
And I'll throw in there the same thing that I threw out at the end of the podcast with Caitlin and Jamie, which is one of the things that I love about both Town and Fine Balance, as Andrew just said, is that both breweries are very easily accessible with a very short exit off the 401. So if you're traveling between Toronto and Kingston, Toronto and Ottawa, like both of them about a 5-minute stretch off the 401, you can get to both. You can get to both breweries in you can get to Town in Whitby and Fine Balance in Kingston with a 5-minute drive off the highway.
Canada's most beautiful highway,
isn't it? Is that what they say?
Absolutely not. I don't think anyone said that.
I think Jeff is the first person to have ever said that.
I was going to say, I've driven through the Rockies, and I feel like
a non-alc. I'm saying that with a non-alc.
Non-alc. Gentlemen, stick around afterwards. We'll wrap this up. But truly, thank you both, man. Like it's, I know we're all, we've all been sort of mates for a while here, but I can't express it enough how much Nate and I appreciate you both and both of your breweries and just everything that you're doing for craft beer. I think you both are two of the exemplary companies that if someone's going to come to Ontario and to check out the local scene, then you'd be very remiss if you didn't visit both Town and Fine Balance. So you guys are champions very dearly. Hugs and wristies. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit that notification button, Nathaniel.
Ding.
So you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast, at Nathan Does Beer. 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, actually, if you feel so inclined. And we'll see you sexy legends in the next one. Peace out.
Cheers.